Hey, what's up, people? It is Thursday. What the heck? Wait a minute. It's Thursday. Not only is it Thursday, it's 9 o'clock on Thursday. So what the hell are we doing here?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
I can dig it. We are here on a Thursday night because I have a very special bonus show tonight. You can see this from what I've got up here on the screen. We're going to have rock progressions with Andrew Colyer of Circuline. Now, if you haven't heard of Circuline, you better do it. I've got links down below. Check them out. This is Mr. Andrew Colyer coming to us live tonight from your studio, right?
Yeah, we are here at the Cave at Internova Music here in New York.
The Cave. Do you have a sign that says the Cave?
You know, we don't, but we could get one. But this is studio. We just call it Studio C. You know, there was always like Studio A is the home studio, and then Studio C is here in the big library.
Yeah. So if it's Studio C, just put an AVE right after it.
Oh, I like that. Studio C, and then that's a good idea.
See,
we could do that on the front door, which I'm not gonna. You can't see it, but yes, we could do that.
And I do this whole pointing thing, and I suck.
Right, and nobody knows where the hell we're pointing, you know, but we know.
And we can't look at the camera, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe what we do is we alter the way we talk or something. We'll just do like, you know, we'll act like cavemen. We'll do these like real boring interview things. We'll just
we'll be like, dude, Stu, you know, we were, you know, we're so happy to be here.
That's so cool.
And we're so grateful that you're having us on the show tonight. You know,
Thanks.
Kind of like a Stephen Wright monologue.
Yeah.
Be like, you know, we're doing this podcast. You know, I can't tell if that's like Stephen Wright or if it's like an NPR thing.
Oh yeah, it's Stephen Wright on NPR.
Oh, Stephen, there you go. It's Stephen Wright on NPR. Well, you know, we were there with Viking Stew on his podcast, and we were trying to say something, but we didn't know what.
I'd be like, I just about pissed myself because I wanted to be off the show. Thank you. Now,
exactly.
Yeah. So to experience something like
and then
that,
I had a flash of. Go ahead. What?
To experience something like that, it's just got to be. I mean, there's videos after videos out there from the things that we grew up watching, talk shows and things like that, where people are just like not there.
Yeah.
You know, and then we have brilliant ones like when they had Kiss on the Tom Snyder show, and
oh my God, Ace
Frehley just stole the show and in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Hey man, it was rock and roll, and their job is to jam out, rock out, have a good time, and be entertaining. You know, that's it.
Yeah. I just thought it was fun that they didn't have to hide when you watch that, and I get it. You know, I've seen, you know, you've probably seen some of the interviews with Paul Stanley, and he's like, and they're like, so what did you think about that interview thing? You know, and he's like, you know, it was what it was, but you know, everybody on the outside watches that. And they weren't even dealing with the things that were happening backstage, you know.
Right.
Being late, and you know, you're like, and then all of that happens, and we love it, you know, and it makes for a great piece of history on camera. But
but when you're living through it, and you got the one person who's late all the time, you got the cranky pants who's always grumpy, you got possibly someone with a substance problem, you got someone else who's just a dick, you got you know, it's it's good for stories, but it's not always fun to be living through.
Thank God we don't have those in our bands.
That's right, we do not anymore. We have willed them all away or moved on.
Vámonos. See you.
Yeah.
You have no place here.
You know, you're correct. That's a good one. You have no place. Or the classic conversation, you know, it's just not working out. I have used those very words with one person.
I'm sure it's a toughie. because bands that, we always say it is like a marriage, because it is like a marriage, and in certain ways.
It's like it's a family. Well, here's the thing.
Family, yeah.
Here's the thing. Once you've worked with someone for a while,
yeah,
generally speaking, we're all adults at this point. Okay,
right.
We're all a certain age. Yeah, well, relative adults.
We all have to adult.
We're trying to be adult professionals, and we all have goals with things we want to do. And if you've been working with someone for a while, you pretty much know how it's going to go, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I have just found that, over 40 or 50 years old, trying to have a talk with someone, they're not really likely to change their habits. They're really not likely to change who they are. No. If someone truly has a growth mindset and they're open to criticism, and you could have a talk with them and be like, listen, could you, here, I love working with you. Here's all the things that are really great. Like, this is good and this is good. And we got all these good things, but here's some things that I got some concerns around that we really need to address. If someone is an open-minded, generally honest person, they have like I said, a growth mindset, they're open to criticism. You can have talks with relatively mentally, emotionally healthy people. But there are some people you just can't have that kind of talk with, and they're never going to change. They don't want to change. And so having a talk is just kind of delaying the inevitable. And you're actually better off if you're just kind and honest with them. And sometimes fewer words is better. Just like Moneyball. Did you see Moneyball?
Love it.
Remember in Moneyball? And he was like, listen, they're grown men. You don't have to babysit him. Just sit him down. Just tell him, hey, you're being traded, or it's just not working out.
It's just business.
It's just business. It's not personal. And
absolutely.
Absolutely.
So looks like we have
start off this festive conversation.
Blake, no, this is great. See, that's why if you read the shirt, it says music and the human experience, because it's all
yeah.
So Blake is here. He's he calls me Thor. I am Thor. That's why I've got the
love the hair. You know what? If I love that Thor hair. If I'd have known that was no one's gonna be in the hair, I would have had a different situation set up for this evening. We could have tried, but
when we go to war, you just know how to wear it.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, we'll have it braided at that point.
I love seeing the comments on the screen. I love seeing the comments on the screen. That's fantastic. It's you and it's not me. That's the George Costanza line, right? From Seinfeld.
George Costanza.
It's not you, it's me. Oh, look, Ron Matthews. What's up, Ron?
Adult. Who is this Ron Matthews guy? He joined me when Robert Barry was on. I don't know. This guy is nuts.
Let me tell you right now. I'm going to say this. Ask him about the ELO Bee Gees. Before we get to that, I got to say, all roads lead to Ron. All roads lead to Ron. I would not be where I am today in my career without Ron Matthews. Thank you. I'm telling you.
Really?
My life would not be where it is without Ron Matthews. I'll be happy to go into that long story. Or short, but I'll try to make it a short story. Oh. So here's the deal.
Size matters.
I think we were in the 5th grade. Well, I'm like 10, maybe. I don't even think I'm 11 yet. 5th grade. My parents got into Amway. This is in the 70s.
Yep.
And look at this Sweet Breath shortage conspiracy. Ronnie's hysterical. So Sweet Breath was this spray. You remember they had this like aerosol spray stuff you could spray in your mouth to give you a fresh breath?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Okay. Anyway.
Yes.
So
because Amway had that.
Amway had that. It was called Sweet Shot. Another one was Sweet Breath. So we used to go. My parents went to Ronnie's house. Sorry, I still call him Ron. It's like he calls me Andy. I call him Ronnie. We've known each other since
exactly. As soon as you said that, I'm like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, we can't help it. And we have 2 younger sisters who are the same age. So it was Kimberly. My sister is Kimberly, and his sister is Becky. So it's like parents go to other parents, have to take their kids to play together.
Yeah.
So my parents sponsor Ronnie's parents into Amway. That's how what happened. And the way that Ron always remembers the story is that we went to their house and I started playing the piano. At their house. Now, I think I had a Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, like piano book. Now, just so you know, it's pretty impossible to play disco on a piano and have it sound anything like the record. But I was because it just is
Not without the word
not.
Casio on the top.
No, it wasn't. No, it was a real upright big wooden
No,
piano at
that's
Ronnie's
what I
house.
mean. You can't do it on that. You could if
Yeah.
it said Casio on it, you might have a
Oh,
better
you
chance.
might have been able to cast it because I could get the bass line going with my left hand and some other comping with this hand.
Have drum beats
You know,
going.
yeah, that's right. You got the little drum tracky thing. But Ronnie says he remembers. I remember playing that, but he says he remember we went over there and I think I played Night Fever, by the Bee Gees. And we were like instant
Yes.
best friends, since then. And then we were in Boy Scouts together. We were in high school together. We were in choir together. He was a tenor. I was a bass. Anyway, we go way back. And in 2000, I was in his wedding. In 2011, I was in New York and Ronnie called me and he said, "Hey, you gotta go see this band December People over in Connecticut. You gotta go see this guy Robert Berry."
There you go.
And he goes, he's telling me all about, oh my God, he's pitting Rattler Patrol because we were in Boy Scouts together too, right? So we were in the same patrol in Boy Scouts, right? So after high school, I went to college and went one direction, and Ronnie went in the Air Force. And in the Air Force, they sent him to communication school. He went to learn. He was manage a radio station. He was in Iceland and Reykjavik, managed a classic rock radio station. He met every rock band who came through there. He booked tours. He met everybody. It was fantastic.
Wow.
And anyway, so 2011, he calls me and he's like, "You got to go see this band, December People. I'm going to fly out to Connecticut and we're going to go to the show." And I'd never heard of them. So we go, and December People was amazing. It was Robert Berry's kind of like holiday tribute band. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I came up with was your favorite Christmas songs in the style of classic rock bands. What? Your favorite Christmas songs in the style of classic rock bands. So it would be like, what if Tears for Fears sang Silent Night?
Yeah, right.
Or right. What if, pick any classic rock band you've ever heard on Keishi, and Robert would make them pick a Christmas song and he would put them together with one of their hits. It was unbelievable. So I'll spare. I mean, I could go on for hours for this one, but that's how I met Robert Berry. That's how I connected with Dave Med from the Tubes, because Dave Med was a keyboard player in the December People. So that first night I met Robert, and I wound up going back to Dave's room, and we stayed up geeking out on keyboard gear till like 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, wow. And that started that relationship, and that's how I became the backup on keyboards and vocals for the Tubes. And then over the years, I just stayed in touch with Robert. Every time Circuline had a new record, I would send it to him. When I had new records with other bands I was working with, I would send it to him. And that's how in 2018, when he wanted to do this North American tour for this album that he had done with Keith Emerson before Keith passed away.
Yeah.
3.2, that one was called The Rules of Change. It was a Billboard charting album. And, he called me to fill in for Keith Emerson because Keith wasn't available. So that was life-changing. And again, it wouldn't. Yeah, see, Ron is remembering that in December of 2011, we stayed in Gary Peel, the guitar player from Boston, who was in December People. I don't know if Gary went home. I don't know why we wound up staying in Gary's room. But for some reason, Gary didn't stay in his room in Connecticut that night. Maybe he went home to Boston because it was only a couple hours away.
And some of these folks, too, would know Gary's work with Sammy Hagar that he did, right?
I was writing Sammy Hagar's band too, and also and Gary's also in a band with Robert called Alliance.
Oh, that's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah.
They have an Alliance band. So anyway, so when I say all roads lead to Ron, I'm not kidding. Like, I mean, he if it weren't for him, my career literally would not be where it is. So thank you so much, Ron Matthews, in St. Louis, Missouri.
Well, and Ron and I met a few years ago, I guess. Now it's been a few years already. It's been a few years ago. We met at a tantric show when I was hanging out with Katie Cruz and over there just over the river. And it was the end of the night. The show was done. Katie and I were walking around, and here came Ron, and she introduced us. And then he just flipping up and tells me that his brother-in-law is Robert Berry. I'm like, okay, I'm sure that you don't run into a lot of people that are going to do this. This is what I'm, probably thinking in my head. It's not that I said this to him, But I'm like, how many people do you? I'm thinking, how many people do you run into that are going to go, holy shit? Your brother-in-law is Robert Barry, and he's like, well, let's call him right now.
Oh, Ron is so good at that.
So I met Robert on a video call.
That's
right
awesome.
there outside the parking lot of the bar. And I'm like, hi.
You're like, what's up?
he and Becky are in bed watching a movie. I'm just, hi. Been a fan since '88, dude. Thanks.
Oh, since there's 3 of them, that's awesome.
And
you know what? I got it. While we're still on the Robert Barry Ron section of the show, portion of the show, so something that's always still funny that we often forget to talk about is that was 2011, December of 2012.
Okay.
Ron and I went to see The Who was on tour in Newark. That was awesome. And then I think it was the next night or 2 nights later, we were in New Jersey to go see December People for that year. And because what happened was something was wrong with the keyboards, and Dave Mack called me and he was like, can you bring me a keyboard to use for the show? Yeah. So I was like, sure. So I have a keyboard in the back of the van, and we go to this show, and for some reason the lighting people didn't show up for the run the spot. So Robert looks at me and Ron, or either Robert or I forgot the managers, whoever the manager, Kevin Boone, I think Kevin was, and he was like, can you guys run lights? And we were like, sure. We were like, yeah, whatever, sure. So basically they were like, climb that ladder, go up that stairs, go up on that catwalk, and you guys are going to put on headphones and you guys are going to run the spotlights for the show.
Holy shit.
Now, of course, I'd never done that before. And
no.
I don't know if Ron had done it before either, but we go up there and we're standing next to each other way up on the ceiling of the thing with the headphones, with the headset on. And Kevin's like, okay, ready, go. Now, the cool thing was, because Ron and I knew the show, we knew all the songs, we had all the records, we knew the show, we knew exactly what was going to happen next. Wow. So every time it was coming up to go on, I think let's say they had a Journey song for Angels We Have Heard on High, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But we knew the music, right? So we knew exactly where we were going to target the spotlight on whatever was happening next. And Kevin is like, it's so great to have musicians running the spotlights because you guys actually know what's going to happen. And we had a great time. I've got a bunch of pictures out. I should pull those out and
see. There's nothing better than yes, immediately thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden you're like, no, I really do know better than somebody who would have gotten paid whatever their running amount is, their, to show up and do this show. You're more valuable than that person at that point.
They just had to show us how to work the light. Yeah, we did. They just had to show us how to. I mean, okay, I can point a light, right? And they just had to show us how. Okay, and they were like, go green, go blue, where's the button? Over the move those things around. Yeah, it was totally fun.
God, that's great.
It was cool.
Man, I would have loved to have done something like that. That would have been.
It was super. It was fun.
Yeah, because it is one of those things where that just whatever level of geek you are, or nerd you are, or dork you are. In whatever aspect of entertainment, whether it's music, movies, whatever, and you can do that intrinsically. You just, this is going to be great because I know I would want to see this, or I should spotlight this. I know exactly what's coming, just like you said. And you're like, wow,
that was fun. Well, and now Ron is got an upcoming show at the Funny Bone. It's a show that he is personally producing.
Yeah,
it's Aaron Hagar, and he's got a local band, and he told me their name, and I've looked at their videos, and they're amazing. I'm drawing a blank on them right now.
Divine Sorrow is the name.
Divine Sorrow, right? They're a great band.
Yeah, because we were up for that.
It's going to be a whole.
Yeah, my band was up for that a little bit, but it was like, you got to send them some stuff. And they have to look at these bands and go, which band's going to work out the best? Which one's going to have a good draw? And Divine Sorrow's been around. They're brilliant. They're brilliant. It's a great band. They are super cool guys. So I'm very happy that they got the gig, to do that with him, because it's going to be a great show.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show. I saw the set list, and it's fantastic. I'm actually sorry I can't be there.
Yeah.
It's all going to be like Sammy Hagar tunes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Doing my
great.
best to be there if I can, but we have a new grandkid coming, so
Oh, well,
yeah,
congratulations.
thank you.
You're
So,
young for a grandfather.
yeah, well, thank you. Every day I meet people a lot younger than me that have them. That's nothing.
Well,
That's nothing to say to my kids. It surprises me sometimes. I'm like, wow, okay, interesting.
well, my grandparents were old. I mean,
Yeah.
my dad was the youngest of 8, and my grandma was 44 when he
Okay.
was born, and then he was 27 when I was born. So, like, I'm born and my grandmother's already 73.
Right.
So my grandparents, they were just old, not
Yeah.
the 73 is that old, but when you're
Well, no.
10 and your grandmother's 83 already, that's pretty old.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's all relative. We have Nocturnal Miss So is here. New grandkid. Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Miss So's she's here a lot, and she turned me on to some other folks deal with comic books and stuff. Now,
Oh, cool.
I do a lightning round at every show.
Okay.
So I come up with these 5 questions that are intended for somebody who's not you. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
No, they're just different. They're different questions a little bit here and there. Sometimes they're a little bit the same, but let's just start with this one. What was your first progressive rock crush that you're just like, good God, I love this band?
okay. Okay, that's a 3-part answer. Okay, so
Oh, good.
not too lightning. Okay, my first favorite band of all time, which could be considered progressive, was ELO.
Yeah, that's progressive.
Was ELO. They're my first all-time favorite band. Loved
Oh,
ELO.
okay, so what was the first thing you heard by them?
It was my friend across the street was David Peak, who was Dan Peak from the band America's younger
Yes.
brother. So Dan would come home from tour and we would hang out with Dan. But so I'd go hang out with David Peak. He was 2 years older than me. And we had Out of the Blue, which is that big double album. And he
Exactly.
had a New World Record, which was the album before that.
Yep.
So New World Record had Telephone Line
Do ya?
and Do Ya and
And
Rock Aria, like those.
yeah, and there was one other one. Um, come on, Living Thing was on there.
Oh, Living Thing was on that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So there's 4 great songs that, and
Right.
then Out of the Blue, like that whole double album. I know that whole thing back to
And
front.
now they've condensed it to a single album.
You mean on a CD?
No, uh, like they've made a not so long album out of it. They've
Out
like
of Out of
they
the Blue?
yeah, they've pulled some things and they made a shorter version of it.
Oh, you know what? I didn't know that because I know I have somewhere. I either have maybe I just have a double CD version of it before they
Yeah.
condensed it.
Mm.
They probably wanted to cram it onto 78 minutes because they just made more money that way.
Yep. Yeah.
Sadly, but
Yeah.
I bet on the streaming platforms you can get the full original version.
Yeah, I've still got my original vinyl back there.
I got mine too.
She's still in great shape.
I
love
actually have. Do you still have the little cutout, the little cardboard spaceship that came with it? I
See,
actually have they had a little cardboard, like you had to punch it out, like of the cardboard.
yeah.
It was perforated, and you assembled it, and the ship was like 3D. It's cardboard, and then you could. I have it on the wall.
See,
Not here.
is it possible that mine didn't have that?
It's possible that the very early editions they had it, and then after a while they quit putting it in because probably an insert that probably cost more money.
Okay, because I got it right away. I mean, pretty much, but
Well,
maybe I got one that was after that because
could have been
I'm
the
like,
US version. Could have been a UK version. Maybe US. I don't know. I've had it
good
I've had it
point.
I've had it forever.
That's great.
So there's so ELO.
Okay.
And then after that, remember in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the only way that we knew about anything that happened was radio, television,
Mhm.
MTV, came in the 80s, and
Yes.
newspapers and magazines.
But
So
remember the fact though that does bring up another little fact that you know what? They used to have new record commercials on television.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they used to have
And
record
the
store commercials, and they're like, the new album's coming out. So that's
it was the new thing that was coming out.
Yeah.
It was the new thing that was coming out. And you know what? I was a big Casey Case American Top 40 guy. That's what I was listening to. So if it wasn't on, say, Casey, or maybe, well, even Casey, but if it wasn't on Casey Kasem's American Top 40, or you saw it in those media outlets, you didn't really know about it.
Right.
So when the Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe album came out in like the late 80s, early 90s, I was, BMG Record Club, Columbia House Record Club. They send you the CD every month. If you don't send the postcard back in, they send you the thing. You got to pay for it.
Right.
So I had forgotten to send the postcard in, and I got the Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe, not knowing anything about Yes. The only thing I knew about Yes was Owner of a Lonely Heart, right? I'd heard that 90125, like when in high school, but I didn't know who any of the people were because I didn't have any magazines. I didn't have the newspapers. There was no way to access this information. It was kind of like a mysterious thing behind the scenes. So I loved that Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman album. Again, not knowing they had previously all been in Yes.
What was that first single they had off of that record? Do you remember? I have it on CD, but I can't remember the freaking song.
I don't even know of a single from that one. I just know that I just kept listening to the whole record.
Yeah, because they played it on
the Order of the Universe. The Order of the Universe.
That might be.
That might be. That there was a song called Teak Boy. There was like ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba.
God,
ba 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 do da do da da.
Trying to see if I can.
I'm just gonna keep riffing on this song.
I know, right? I'm just like keep it rolling, man.
It's John Anderson,
brother of mine.
Oh, Long Lost Brother of Mine. That was a big one.
That was the
one. They might have had a video for that.
I think they played that on K-Sheaf first.
Okay.
That was the track that they did, because I ended up getting that. What label was that on? Was that on Atlantic as well?
I believe, yes, that sounds right. Sounds like on Atlantic.
Because that would have been right. I mean, everybody they worked on Atlantic, Atco.
Oh, they had been on Atlantic since the first. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and almost like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's in the freaking band. They're on Atlantic.
They're going to be distributed, but they're on Atlantic.
Because Atlantic's like, we're not letting them go.
Exactly. They're like,
no, I'm sorry. This was on Arista.
Oh, you know what? You're right, because I was seeing the A. You're right, Atlantic, but Arista, it could have still been distributed by Atlantic.
You're right. Yeah,
because we had
Arista here. So yeah.
No, it is. It was Arista, but Arista could have been an imprint or subdivision. Or whatever division of, because Ahmet Erdogan was still in charge of Atlantic, and he would still approve things that were going through on Arista.
Yeah. So that was so that's wild.
So fast forward
and
to around 2004, another 10 or 15 years later, and I had a buddy. I met this guy. His name is Dan Aggers. Thank you so much, Dan Aggers. Another guy who my career would not be where it is without Dan. Guitar player, and somebody introduced us, and he goes, well, he goes, you're classically trained and you're into pop and rock and jazz and blues. He goes, you should be playing prog. And I go, prog? Yeah. I go, what's that? And he goes, like progressive rock. And I go, still don't know what you're talking about. And he goes, like Yes. And I go, oh, Owner of a Lonely Heart. And he was like, no. And he goes, like Genesis. And I go, oh, Invisible Touch. And he's like, no. He's like, you should be into, like Peter Gabriel. And I go, Peter Gabriel's never in Yes. I mean, Genesis. Peter Gabriel's never in Genesis. And he was like, what are you, because all I knew was So, right? I know Peter Gabriel So. That's like the massive, biggest album, one of the best-selling records in history. That's what I knew Peter Gabriel from. Because remember, I'm a late 70s, 80s guy.
Right.
None of that early Genesis stuff was on the radio, and they weren't together anymore. So you didn't. I mean, that was the people I knew. So Dan came back the next week, and he handed me the Yes Symphonic Live DVD.
Oh, wow!
And it was this like Yes tour, and it was like imagine Yes greatest hits from all their albums with a symphony orchestra, and I had Tom Brislin on keyboards. Tom's a good friend of mine now, but a good friend for I've known him for like 10 years.
Wow.
And that really, that warped my brain forever, because I came on, I put it on, and the first thing out of the gate is Close to the Edge with a symphony orchestra. And I freaked out, and I was like, ah! I literally had to shut the DVD player off, and I was running around the house. Like,
no way!
This is how it would be. Like, this is it. And
how old
really
were you at the time?
Like, we're talking 2000, this is 20 years ago. I'm like 30. I'm like 37, 35, 36, 37 years old. I'm like, I didn't know. I'm really late to the Prog game. Really late.
Oh my God.
I'm late to Prog. Because up until then, it was film soundtracks, movie soundtracks. Jazz, or Journey, Styx, Kansas, Foreigner, Bob Seger, REO, Speedwagon, like all that classic stuff from the Midwest.
Right.
And I could never figure out how to put it all together. I was just always frustrated. And again, in the 70s and 80s, there was separation among all those camps. There wasn't the kind of melding fusion of everything like there is now. There wasn't even world music. Paul Simon, Graceland was like world music at that time. Right. So when I heard that, and so basically with that Symphonic Live, it's a 3-hour show. I literally could not watch more than 20 minutes a night. So every night I would come home from work and put that on, and I'd watch another 20-minute epic or 20 minutes, and I would like freak out, shut it off, run it, call Dan. I'm like, Dan, dude, we have to do this. We got to Prog out. So, that's kind of what started me down this path. And then Dan really helped to get me into all the other progressive rock bands. And then I
was gonna say, like Hawkwind.
Didn't know anything. I didn't know about Hawkwind until probably 2013.
Okay, all right.
They're great, but just didn't know about them.
Right.
So
yeah.
I know there's a long answer for your lightning round.
Oh no, that's not the longest answer to one of those. I'll tell you.
I got plenty of answers. I just we're trying to keep the listeners entertained.
But that's the way we do it right there. That's what I'm talking about. Because you know what? I know what that looks like. It may seem strange to me, and I may go, how old were you when you did that? But I've seen this happen. I have a friend of mine that I took to my hometown area when we did a show called Rock and Skull, which is a little festival that was happening up in my hometown area. And he saw this band that was a prog metal band, and he just wigged out. I'm like, what the hell are you doing right now?
Were they doing like Dream Theater? Were they doing Queensryche? Were they like, what were they
doing?
They were
doing originals.
Oh, and they were original prog metal. Okay. So if they were probably really good. Your friend had never experienced anything like that. It touched a nerve in his heart and mind, and he just lost it.
So I know exactly what that looks as illogical as it sounds, or as I don't want to say ridiculous, but just as over the top as that sounds to people that happened to you. I've seen it happen with him. And we're in the beer tent for the bands. And I'm like, I need a beer. So we go out there. He goes, man, oh man. I'm just like, settle the fuck down. I'm like,
you're like, dude, you need to calm down.
This is embarrassing right now. What is your problem? And he just couldn't get over the fact that these guys, it did the same thing to him. It just tore the roof off his brain. I can imagine there's a part of you that looks like you, and it's in your brain somewhere connected to your soul and your heart, somewhere in there. And when you saw that, I could just see that being in there, just hitting the wall of this glass shell.
Oh yeah,
shattering it.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Okay. I
just snapped. Just snapped. Well, and also remember, okay, and you know what? And I had been a DJ for 4 years too, and I had played in bands. I'd had a jazz quartet. I'd done a little bit of film work. I'd done some radio work. I'd done a lot of things. But people forget. Okay, we have a supercomputer in our pocket now. Okay, supercomputer in your pocket now that you've had for maybe 15 years. Okay, the First Droid came out. iPhones, Droids, all that stuff started coming out in 2008 is when iTunes launched. Spotify launched later. iTunes came out in 2008, and you couldn't get the history of the world's recorded music in your pocket. Like before that, you literally had to own the CDs or the DVDs of vinyl. Like that's why you got a big fucking cool ass looking collection behind you on the wall back there. You had to own it, or you had to hear it on the radio, and that was whatever radio station you could get within, or it was on MTV, but when they actually still played music. Or you went to your friend's house and borrowed their vinyl and copied onto cassettes. So now we have massive cassette libraries. Like this is how we found out about stuff. And if it was older or if it was obscure, you never heard about it.
Right.
It was all major label driven. And that's not a criticism. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that's how it was.
Yes.
So, if you didn't have older brothers or sisters, or if somehow you weren't really into the music during that, say, golden era of progressive rock of 1968 to 1978, you just missed it. I missed it. Anything that, whatever they were playing on KSHE was probably I've Seen All Good People and probably Roundabout, right? Like that's probably what they were playing on KSHE, and I don't know if they were playing anything
Going
else,
for the One is probably something else.
Oh, maybe that one. But we're talking about a few things here.
Things like that, yeah.
But it was a few things. It was
a few. It was, yeah. It wasn't Tales from the Topographic Ocean. It wasn't,
Yeah, it wasn't any of that. You're not going to hear UK with Eddie Jobson and Alan Holdsworth. You're not going to hear any UK on anything commercial.
Correct.
Correct. And, so you're looking at, 80s and 90s, 70s, 80s, 90s. You heard like what you had a chance to be exposed to.
Right.
Even the jazz stations by the mid to late 80s was playing smooth jazz. It wasn't even, you weren't going to hear Herbie Hancock and Miles Davis or Chick Corea. It was like
no Ronnie Laws.
Like it was like make out sex music. Like it was good for that stuff. If that was going to be your vibe while you
now they call it yacht rock.
Oh right. Well, yacht rock now that's going to be Greatest Part of Me by Ambrosia, or something like that.
That. I said, what yacht rock is? Yacht rock is songs that the person who wants to make out or worse with some chick on his yacht goes to a dork like me and goes, look, I need like this music so it'll like impress this chick. I don't know these songs. I just need the music that does that. And you're like, yeah, I know what you need. I'll get it together.
Hey, you know what? While you're there, throw in some Prince sexy music and some Luther Vandross, and those white girls really freak out.
Yeah. Put some Maze, some Frankie Beverly and Maze in there.
Throw in some Anita Baker.
Anita Baker. There you go, man. That's it. You're talking.
And if Ron's still listening, he might have thrown in some Bee Gees.
He would. Totally would. I know I would.
I love Bee Gees. Bee Gees are fantastic.
Oh man,
Bee Gees, those harmonies, man. Those.
Pink Floyd is totally
okay. So go ahead.
No, Pink Floyd is totally progressive. Miss So was asking, and they're one of my favorites as well. Yeah,
Pink Floyd is probably the most famous progressive band.
Good call. Good call.
Because everybody's heard Dark Side of the Moon. You know what I didn't get to go see that I really wish, and you probably saw this because you're a cool dude and I was not at that age.
Aw, shucks.
Did you ever get to go see Dark Side of the Moon in like the laserium at a planetarium?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about that because I never got to see that.
Yeah, it was just really cool. I saw that here later. So we had a planetarium in Peoria, but I went there maybe once, and it wasn't that. But they did it here down at the planetarium here.
Oh, that's a great planetarium.
Forest Park, and it was freaking awesome. Yeah, that's one of those things that I'm like, I never did see that, but now I'm going to.
Wonder if it's still around.
I don't know. I wonder. And you never know what they may have done with it now.
If I owned a planetarium, I'd run that thing every year.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I'd run it every year.
Absolutely.
And especially in the states where weed's legal, I'd really run it every year.
Oh, damn straight. And then and then do a version with Wizard of Oz.
You know what? I've heard about that too, and I've never seen that. But I know you're supposed to synchronize it, right? And you hit the play button right at a certain spot.
Yeah, yeah. So I've done some of that, and then I loved years ago, and I don't, if I can figure out how you can or can't do that. I don't know if we just on YouTube, if we just sacrifice a video and just don't worry about the copyright crap and just go, I'm not going to get monetized on this or whatever.
I don't know. My understanding is that as soon as the lion roars, you hit the play button to start the needle. That's what I heard.
Okay.
Like the MGM comes in, like when the lion roars. Now I could be wrong. You'd have to experiment with that and see if it works that way. But when the lion roars, you're supposed to hit the play button.
I was talking to Stuart Corden about it from Blitz last night, and I'm like, okay, so wait a minute. So because the thing I didn't understand was, as we all know, those albums were only, like Dark Side of the Moon is what, I don't know, it's 36 minutes, 38 minutes
38
long.
minutes. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, what do you do? Just keep playing it? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, do you let it run again? I was lost.
Or maybe you just do it maybe when the record's over, you just stop watching.
Yeah, or do you do it after she kills the witch, after the house lands on the witch?
Oh, I don't know.
And then I'm like, there's something out there. I mean, there's something on everything.
Google that. You know there's a whole bunch of freaks who figure that shit out already.
Yeah.
They've experimented with all the different start and stop points.
There's probably somebody that goes, okay, so what you do is you take this Rick James album, you start the Smurfs movie, and when it's 12 minutes in,
another thought I had is if you're concerned about trying to do it just to have it on YouTube and monetization, you could do like they used to do for, I don't know if it was Mystery Science Theater, but you could do it where you're talking over it.
Yeah.
Like, so there's just enough there so you don't get any copyright strikes. You could like talk or say something or have a cat meowing or have some other sound effects. So so there's other things on there other than just the soundtrack.
Okay.
Or leave the Wizard of Oz on, but you pull it down where it's just enough in the background that it's messing up a little bit of the Floyd, so they can't complain that you're stealing the Floyd, because as long as there's other sounds in there, you can't get a copyright strike.
Yeah, okay. Because I know, like Don Henley said, he admitted that he's got, like, I don't know, a whole little minute horde of people who troll the internet to figure out where Eagles music is being used.
And that's really a shame, because I mean, look, I'm not a famous artist like Don Henley who's made millions of dollars on my career like that. Like I wish that would happen. I would love for that to happen, but I didn't have that happen. So I've never walked in his shoes. At the same time, the only thing I can say is every single artist I have seen who keeps their music from being on streaming platforms or being on YouTube or whatever, I think they lose money. Like, even Joni Mitchell and Neil Young, who had their music on streaming platforms, they pulled it down for some reasons. I don't even get into the story. And then they figured out they'd lost like $300,000 by not having their music on the streaming platforms. And now they're back on Spotify now.
Interesting.
So I think that in today's day and age, if you're not on the streaming platforms and you're not out there, then you don't really exist. I know there's another famous British artist named Stephen Wilson. His band was Porcupine Tree. He had his Porcupine Tree, and then he's got a big solo career.
Yeah.
And for a long time, he didn't want to do streaming. And then when Prince died, he realized, he did this deep dive on Prince, and he was like all over YouTube. And then he was trying to find him on the streaming platforms. And he said, wow, if you're not on those platforms, you don't exist. And how is anyone ever even going to find you? How are you ever going to exist in the future, or even in this lifetime? Let's say, you're 50, you're going to live to 100. The new Spotify streaming numbers that just came out in 2017, almost every artist who was making $10,000, fast forward 7 years, if they kept putting up music, they kept marketing, they kept promoting, they're all making $50,000. So it's 7 years later, the average one who's serious, who keeps going and really marketing music, they're making 5 times more money than they were 7 years ago on Spotify. So I can understand. I understand Don's point. I get where he's coming from. The only thing I would say is, you know, if you can afford to do that and that's your choice and you want to do that, then that's great.
Right.
I'm personally am not in a position to do that. I need fans. We need as many fans as we can get, and we're grateful to have people who listen to our music. So, you know, people want to use it. And the thing is, when you set things up with the streaming, the way that the royalties and the tracking are, if they use it on YouTube, you're going to get paid for it.
Yeah.
You know, and look, it's just more people, you know, in the progressive rock world, say, I don't know, I don't remember the numbers right now, but let's say 50% of our audience is over 60 and another say 20% of our audience is age 45 to 60, right? So you've got a good 70, 80, 75, 80% of our audience is over 45. So if there's a bunch of young kids who want to take our music and put it on TikTok and dance to it, if you want to dance,
you're like,
hey man, go ahead, because they might hear it and they might like it and they might tell their friends. You know, in this world, there's basically all the people who never heard of you. Then there's the people who heard of you. Then there's people who heard of you and they checked you out. Then the people who checked you out and they actually liked you. Then the people who checked you out and they liked you, they loved you. Like, it's a giant funnel, and it's all a huge numbers game. And we just need as many people as we possibly can. In it, like I don't remember if we were talking about this at the top of the show or before the show started. We're now in the era of attention.
Right.
You know, in the progressive rock genre in 2022, there's a whole bunch of super cool, nice geek people in a Discord progressive rock group. And they started a shared Google Doc, and they tracked every record that was progressive rock record that was released in 2022. There were 996 albums released in 2022 on the progressive rock genre. That's major labels, that's independent artists, that's everybody.
Wow.
996. So 1,000 albums a year. How are you going to get attention? How are you going to get people's attention with 1,000 albums a year in our one little micro genre? Now, it's not including the whole rest of the world. I'm talking about just in our genre. So what do you do? Hang on. What do? You do a virtual tour like Circuline is doing. With our Circuline 2024 virtual tour, where we have 57 events.
Wow.
In the course of the whole year. So we have a single release every 6 weeks. We have the gear behind the music videos. We have the lyric videos. We got the story behind the song where we're here in the cave talking about the music. We got the official videos. We got the behind the official videos. We got live streams, and we got the album coming out. So we're doing something every week, all year. And,
smart.
You know, because we're literally just trying to get people's attention, you know, and then if you like us, you can do a deep dive on the music, behind the music, the gear we used, all the cool stuff. So we're having a great time doing it. And that's the best thing that we could figure out to try to do something to really not relaunch, but this newest version of the band with the 5 of us, you know, with this 5th product, our 3rd studio album.
Yeah. So I was looking here. I'll tell you what. Hang on just a second. Let me take a look at this. Let me ask you this question. What is the because I'll finish out these last couple of lightning round questions. See, I'm looking at this. You know what?
Sorry, he has to be like a lightning round. I'm talking for like 20 minutes.
Wait, I'm gonna. These don't really fit right here, right now. So
okay.
I don't want to do that in the direction you just went. I don't want to do that right now. I want to stick with the band. So what I wanted you to do is, as I'm looking at the band's web page, I'm looking at the band. So you do the keyboard work. You have Darren Brannon on drums. Tell us all about Darren.
Oh, well, Darren is an enigma wrapped in a riddle. I can tell you that right now. Darren is originally from Cleveland. He has progressive rock and jazz fusion in his DNA.
Okay.
Usually when we write stuff, Darren and I write the majority of the music together, because he originally started as a piano player. And he's a pretty good keyboard player. So one of the things that we did in our live show 2018, 19, 20 is we used to do a keyboard duet. during the show. Like we had 2 keyboards in the middle of the stage, and we'd both play off each other and have a really good time. So he's really good with arrangements. And his classic line is, we write something in 4, and then he says, well, can we, add half a beat or take out half a beat? That's always Darren's thing.
Yeah.
So he has great ears as a producer. So he's kind of been my partner in crime all these years with writing the majority of the music.
Okay.
Darren is also our graphics designer. So all the graphics that you see Darren has done, he's done all the graphics for most of the records. The first guitar player in the band, Bill Shannon, was a graphics guy, and he's the person who originally designed the logo.
I got you. Okay.
And then when Bill left, Darren took over he's been doing all the graphic stuff since then.
Wow. Tell us about Natalie Brown, your vocalist.
So Natalie Brown is my life partner. And of course, the whole cliche, girlfriend of the band bullshit. Natalie had a career for 30 over 30 is 40 years, long time, as a union actor, singer, dancer, New York City, Boston, Hartford, all over the Northeast, acting, singing, dancing. She's a real musician. She's not like the girlfriend who sings. She's like a real musician with a great ear. She got a great voice. So Natalie sings, lead and background vocals. I sing lead and background vocals. Okay. And we used to be a 6-piece band, and the other band members, his name is Billy Spillane, and he's on the first 4 products. And Billy also sang lead and background vocals and played rhythm guitar. So we do a lot of 3-part harmonies. We would do a lot of, not Crosby, Stills, and Nash, but we would do like those kind of classic 3-part harmonies you do here in America, or Crosby, Stills, and Nash, or some Yes stuff. And so Billy left the band in August of 2022. And so for this new album, Natalie and I have just done all the vocal duties. And then when we perform live, our new bassist, Shelby Logan Warren, who's from London, she leads her own band called Kairos, and she plays keyboards and sings lead in her own band. And in our band, she'll play bass and she'll sing background vocals. We already are entertaining some live touring options for the 4th quarter of this year.
Okay.
And so we're contemplating bringing in another guy to help us sing some of the background, those harmonies, and then also play percussion. So his name is Michael Govro. And Natalie and I have an acoustic gig too, that we have like an acoustic trio quartet gig, and Mike's a part of that gig. So we're already used to doing Little River Band, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. We do all kinds of, so America, that kind of stuff. So we're used to working with Mike. He's got a great voice, and so we'll see. We've toured England before. We have some potential offers to go back to Europe next year. And so if we do, we don't know if Mike would be available or not. And by that point, we would have been able to get Shelby all up to speed on all of the background vocals for 3 albums worth of material.
Yeah, so, she is just as a fellow bass player, I love her work, and she is just charming. I mean,
we love her. She's great. Very funny, very talented.
Yeah.
And listen, and if you like progressive metal combined with synth pop, you should check out her band is Kairos, Kyros. Kyros, Kairos.
Okay.
Yep. And they are seriously, they're like a combination of like, 80s synth pop meets Dream Theater. Wow. That's what I would say. They're really, and they're really amazing.
That sounds outstanding.
4-piece band, and they sound huge because she's so great with all the synthesizer stuff.
How many things do they have recorded? Do you know off the bat?
I think
I can look.
I should know this. They have 3, 4, 5 records, something like that. Because I think there were 1 or 2 records ahead of us. We all started around the same time. Kairos originally was a band called Synesthesia, and they were in around 2013 or 14. Because Circuline has started in 2014. We've been around about the same length of time. They just released a new album, and I don't know if there's their 4th or 5th album.
Oh well, yeah. I see right now they started they had a 2017, and then they had 20 and 22 and 21, and then Mannequin is their 5th album.
Mannequins are a new album. Yeah.
Yeah. It
And
came
it
out this
depends,
year.
and because they have such a unique blend of things, like if you watch one video or check out one song and it's kind of synth poppy, Frankie Goes to Hollywood 80s type thing, make sure
Yeah.
you check out another one because it'll going to be more Dream Theater-ish. It's really pretty amazing how they have such a wide variety of stuff.
Well, I'll
And
tell you what,
Shelby's
I'm throwing it on tomorrow then. That's
Shelby's great, and
wow.
she's doing all the recording and production behind all that stuff. She's fantastic.
Well, I will definitely have to talk to you after the show about talking to her
Sure,
too.
I'm sure I'll be happy to get her on.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Um,
And then lastly, we have Dave Bainbridge on guitars.
And Dave is phenomenal. Dave is a world-class guitarist. He's actually been picked as in the top 3 to 5 guitarists in the world, top
Wow.
10 guitarists in the world, a bunch of times in Prog Magazine reader polls. He's always up there with Steve Hackett. He's up there with Guthrie Govan. He's up there with like all the top guitar players. And first of all, he is the nicest, and I mean super nicest, like almost like, I don't want to say holy, but, or spiritual, but there's something almost otherworldly about Dave. He's so nice. He's amazing. He's just glow. He's just the nicest guy. So nice. And it's great. And you know what? And it's not one of those annoying niceness. Like it's truly just like this loving soul is what I'll say about Dave. And because he's also another guy who's trained in classical and jazz piano, classical and jazz guitar. He plays rock. He's currently in the band Life Signs, and they tour all over Europe. They were just on the Cruise the Edge recently. Life Signs is amazing. He had his own band called Iona, and they were kind of like this Scottish, Celtic, Christian, proggy folk band from like 80s, 90s, first decade of the 2000s into the early teens. 25, 30 years, a long time.
What was the name of that one?
Iona. I-O-N-A. Iona.
Okay.
So that was really his band for a long time. He was also in the Straubs for a number of years.
Shoot. Yeah.
The Straubs, like Rick Wakeman was in that band. They had a whole bunch. They've had,
yeah.
So he was in the Straubs. He had his own band, Iona. Life Signs is amazing. Life Signs, you will find some samples of them on the streaming platforms. They are an independent progressive rock band from England. They're totally amazing, and they really encourage their fans to buy the CD. So they have a few songs on streaming, like as for discovery and sampling purposes, and you'll be able to find some of their stuff. They're really amazing. So Dave plays on this new Circuline album. Dave plays regular electric guitar. He plays acoustic. He's got 12 string, 6 string. He plays bouzouki. He threw in some keyboards and pad stuff. He's just this multi-talented world-class guy. And we're so grateful to have him.
Wow.
And, Natalie and Darren and I have been the core of the band since 2014. So that's one of the reasons that the album is titled Core, is because we've been through a number of lineup changes, but the three of us are still here. And we're really grateful to have Shelby and Dave on board for this new album. And we feel it's our best work. And actually, it was mixed by Robert Berry. He did a great job mixing the record.
Wow. And, there you go. Okay. Well, now you have
the first. Go ahead.
You have this live album that is available. I'm just looking at the store now. I'm going to the store. Yeah.
Yep.
So you have this
There's
available.
two.
The website. You have this the Circuline New View.
Yep.
Which, all right, so it's the live Blu-ray DVD CD. And then let's see, one is the digital audio for $20.
That's it. Yeah. There's basically Circulive Majestic was our first CD DVD Blu-ray that came out in 2018, and that's from our 2016 performance at the Rites of Spring Festival in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay, yeah, I see that one here. Yeah.
Circulive Majestic came out in 2018, and then Circulive New View came out in 2020, and that's from our performance at Prog Rock. And those two CD, DVD, Blu-ray products are very interesting because they were filmed only 18 months apart.
Wow.
But the set list is 50% different because we knew we were coming out with another product, and we said, well, nobody's going to want to buy the other product if the set list is the same as the last product.
Yeah.
So set list is 50% different. With New View, we have an acoustic moment. We have the piano duet. We have a new drum. We call it the drum feature, a drum off, where in the middle of a song, everybody stops playing the instrument they're playing, and we all run around the stage and play different instruments. Everybody's playing a different drum. It's super fun.
Okay. So have you ever seen the live footage? They showed it on MTV years ago. Saga did that.
We haven't seen Saga do it.
At one point, just everybody just switches around, and you're like, what is happening right now? And they just go into this song, and you're like, holy crap. I'm like, that is so cool. So when you said that, I'm like, oh my God, you get to see this happen too. So this is great. This is great.
Well, the thing is that we've all been to concerts and shows where people said, well, they were, they first of all, they're like, well, they were better on the record. The record was better. I saw them live, but they weren't so good. The record was better. Number one.
Yeah.
The other one was, or you go to the concert and they basically just come out and they just play all the songs exactly the way that they are on the record. They just kind of play through everything.
Yeah.
And how we've all, as students of the genre, students of music, as all avid concert goers, as fans, what we remembered, what I said, people go to shows and they remember these moments. They remember a moment in the show when they all came out and sat on stools and just played acoustic guitars and sang, or like you just said, you just remembered, they all ran around the stage and played different instruments, or they did something different. And if you have a few of those, we structure our live shows to have those moments throughout the show. So it's not just us coming on stage and just playing the record.
Right.
We're really trying to give the audience something special that they're not going to get anywhere else.
Yeah.
So then we capture that, and then we have that for a CD, DVD, Blu-ray product.
Wow.
And so far that's working. So
yeah, us. You definitely have plenty of things. Now I do need to ask you about this. I just noticed that down below at on the last thing on your merch area, you have this SVF3, the premium matte vertical poster, and it has Cell 15 on it.
Yeah.
Remind me who is in that band.
Okay, so Bob Richardson, that's Bob Richardson's band. That's his band. Bob is awesome.
Yes, because he did Hybrid Ice, right?
That's right, he did. Yes. I was in Cell 15. Go ahead.
Okay, no, we could both keep going here because I interviewed Bob on my show when I was doing this show through Go Game Go. Look at that. That's my Dr. Seuss moment for the day. But
awesome.
But I saw Cell 15. I'm like, holy crap, that's Bob.
That is Bob.
I was like, that's Bob, right?
That's right. So so on the website, what Stu is seeing is we have 11 by 17 posters from some of these other last tours that we did. So in 2015 and 16, we basically mounted our own regional tour, and we did it with other bands. So one of the Sonic Voyage Fests, I have the posters over here on the wall in the studio. I think they were both with Cell 15, I think, but they may not have been. But Cell 15 is fantastic, and we toured around the Northeast with those other bands.
Yeah,
and we just mounted our own tours. And then after that, Bob asked me to be in Cell 15, so I played on their second album, and then I played at Rossfest. So I played some live shows with them. And I believe I'm going to play with them again, possibly in the future. Bob recently moved to Florida, and I think he's working on the next record.
Wow.
With his lovely wife, Judy.
That is outstanding. Cause he's super
Bob's
dude.
Amazing.
And I had a friend of mine who grew up out in Philly area, and he turned me on to them when we were working together at St. Louis Music. And he's like, man, I got this band, you need to hear them, called Hybrid Ice. And I was like, okay. And he gave me this album, and the album cover is amazing. It's a great piece of artwork, and it's lightning, and it's right with me. I got lightning
It's
all over here.
badass.
And it is badass. And
It's
then they
badass.
did a second record after that, and then many years later did a newer one, and they're all 3 great records. And of course, I mentioned it before, he wrote Magdalene, right? He wrote that song. And Boston covered it.
Yes.
And
Boston recorded.
And there's the debate, right? There's the debate. Whose is better? And I vote Hybrid Ice every time.
Oh.
I like the Hybrid Ice version.
I've seen them. I've seen them live. I saw them in Pennsylvania. They were freaking amazing. They were fantastic.
He was super cool to have on the show, and it was just great to talk about it. And we talked about Cell 15, and I bought that stuff too. I was just like, yeah.
So you know what I always say about Bob is I say looks like Don Johnson, sings like Don Henley.
That's a sharp individual.
He looks like Don Johnson, sings like Don Henley.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
That's Bob Richardson.
Well, now I have the links down below, so check those out. You can go to the shop. You can check out the whole discography there. You can order stuff there, and you have the Circuline Return album, and there's Counterpoint, and let's see, and then the new one is Core.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Studio wise, yes.
Good.
Yeah. Return was our first album, and then Counterpoint was the second album, and then Core is the new third studio album.
Yeah. And I'm telling you what, you got Circuline high top sneakers.
You know what? I don't have them on, but I do have the Circuline high top sneakers. They're super cool.
Are they nice?
They're really awesome, but they are super. They're kind of like Converse All Stars, like the canvas. You know, those Converse All Stars. Yeah, they're kind of like that. They're not like Nike Airs, but they're more like the classic, like those Chuck Taylor All Stars.
Yeah,
but we've had people. We're streaming in 52 countries around the world, and we have physical merchandise sales in 23 countries. And we've had people they'll buy like the hat, the sweatshirts, the t-shirts. There's somewhere Darren came up with a pair of sweatpants because he's doing our design, and then they bought the tennis shoes. We were like, we love you, man. You bought everything. And you know what? While we're here, everything that Stu's talking about is over at circulinemusic.com. And if you want to check out over our record label, you can go to innernovamusic.com. And that's our small independent record label. And that's got anything that I'm associated with. So at innernovamusic.com, there's all the Circuline stuff. There's my solo work. There's a Cell 15 page. There's a progressive metal band, Awaken. There's Frank Wyatt. What else? Oh, the Robert Berry stuff. Anything that I have anything to do with the project is going to be over at the innernovamusic.com.
Okay, cool. I'm actually putting that in real quick to make sure that I have it right. Yep, there it is. All right, so I have that link. I'm putting it right here in the chat right now. There it is.
Thank you,
so
sir.
If you guys want to copy that and swipe that, and you can go there, and it's really, really cool. Really good stuff. And Lance is here. Lance is a good buddy of mine he's like Captain History. And on this date in 79, Bob Seger released the single Old Time Rock and Roll, which is probably,
I love it,
historically one of my least favorite songs of his, just because it's overplayed. That's the only reason.
You know what? All I can tell you is the 4 years that I was a DJ in the Midwest. If you wanted to get people on the dance floor, man, you put that song on. You know what's really funny is
and did they strip down to their just shirt and underwear?
Oh man, it's crazy. And then if you want, well, okay, we'll come back to that one. I had he's gonna do flash dance, of course.
Yeah.
I had a female roommate in the early to mid 90s, and she came home. She was like, she'd been to a wedding, or she was talking about something. She goes, "You know that song?" I go, I don't know. What are you talking about? She goes, take those old records off the shelf. I go, what? She goes, take those old records off the shelf. I was like, Old Time Rock and Roll by Bob Seger? She was, she was like, Yeah, because the song starts, take those old records off the shelf. I
Yeah.
was like, oh God. Like, you're killing me. Like, Carmen, you're killing me. This is a girl who was dating 3 guys named Mike at the same time.
No.
And I'd come home and I'd be like, hey, there was a message on the answer machine. She was like, who called? I'm like, Mike. And she was like, which one? I go,
one?
What do you mean, which one? How many are there? She was like, well, there's 3. I go, 3? You're dating 3 guys named Mike. And because remember, this is when you had an answer machine. We didn't have a supercomputer in our pocket. Yep. I was like, how do you keep track? I go, how do you even know which Mike you're talking to? She goes, I just go, hey. And I just have to wait for them to talk. I go, how do you even remember who you told what to? She's like, yeah, I don't really, I got to stop this.
Oh, Lord.
Sorry. Tales of younger days.
Now look at this one. On this date in 1980, Genesis released Duke, which is a fantastic record. That was probably the first full-length Genesis album I ever heard.
That was a breakthrough record for them, because didn't that one have Thrown It All Away?
No, that was their self-titled that came out albums later.
What was the breakthrough hit that came out on Duke?
This one had
Follow Me.
Misunderstanding was the huge hit.
Misunderstanding. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, and then it had Behind the Lines, Duchess, and there's one more, because I love this frickin' record. And there's one more that's as big as Behind the Lines. It's do 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 bum bum bum.
Oh yeah.
Bum, bum, bum. I mean, what a show opener. If you're going to cover something and you've got your kind of a band, I mean, if I'm saying is, if you have all those working parts and you're covering songs, that's a show opener. You know, and that might even be Behind the Lines. I'm just trying to remember what
I just want to give a shout out to Lance Jennings. He's doing a great job as the history guy.
He does that for us all the time. He's part of our, like, there's 5 of us in a feed on Facebook Messenger, and he throws us these things because he knows that we use them in the shows. So Pete uses them sometimes. Yeah.
Okay, so here's Lance is killing. So basically, if you put these in chronological order, it goes Rocky, Bob Seger, Genesis, Duke, and then Flashdance.
Yes. So now hold on. There's one more that I didn't show. But when I watched this movie again, I was like, okay, really? What's the big thing about this movie? But it's the first R-rated movie I ever saw, because I snuck into it when I was 15. I had other friends that were supposed to go with me, and they didn't show up. So I went in and I was freaked out. I was like, but early on in the movie, before I was freaked out, I go, boobs. Because it's really weird. Have you ever seen Phantasm?
I have not seen that movie, but I've heard all about it.
But you tell me your story. By this hot gal, and they start doing it at in a graveyard, and the top comes down, of course, her top, and
boobs.
And yep, you're like, whoa. And then the next thing you see is the old man's head, because he's morphed himself or made him believe that he's a hot chick. And now he's with this woman, great body, and that old man's head. And you're like, ugh.
Oh God.
You're like,
oh, that's awful.
Dude, that's not right.
That's not right.
There's other scenes in that movie that just don't make sense. It's just a weird movie. But
don't be that guy.
Don't be that. I owned that movie for a while because I remembered seeing it, but then I was like, yeah, I'm done. I don't need to see it again.
Did you sell it on eBay?
No, I think I loaned it to somebody and said, you could just keep it. Yeah, I don't need it back. I don't need it back.
It's all yours.
It's my gift to you. It's not that I don't like it anymore. It's just I want you to have it. Whatever helps me sleep at night.
I've seen this so many times. It's all yours now.
So anyway, yeah, the whole Bill Conti thing, right? I mean, geez whiz.
Well, see, here's the thing. So, right, so bring up that, yeah, with the Rocky thing. Like, I played trumpet for 10 years, and I
Yeah,
loved film scoring. So between
yeah.
playing the piano and playing the trumpet for 10 years, I mean, I had the Rocky on vinyl. I had Star Trek: The Motion Picture on vinyl. I had Star Wars on vinyl. I had Close Encounters of the Third Kind on vinyl.
Wow.
I had, you know, all those movies because that's what I was. And what's really freakish is, around that time, we're listening to all that. And then I'd go to a swim meet on Saturday and we're listening to Kiss Alive, on the, on the or it was Chuck Mangione live at the Hollywood Bowl. Now put that together. Chuck Mangione, Kiss, and Rocky. No wonder I became a progressive rock musician.
It's a shepherd's pie, man.
Yeah.
It's all just throw it all together, man, and just eat it together. It's all delicious. Lovely.
Hey, listen, I heard a rumor that there might be another Spinal Tap sequel in the works.
I just got the return of Spinal Tap on Laserdisc.
I didn't know there was a return of Spinal Tap. What?
Yeah, hold on. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'll entertain the troops while Stu steps away to pick up the visual aid.
I haven't put it away yet, so it's right there.
Oh.
See?
Dude. Oh my God. When did that come out? I never even heard of that one.
It's been a while because it's on Laserdisc. So
listen, kudos to you for having a Laserdisc player that still works that you can use.
I'm telling you what, it was a fortunate moment. Let's see, what year is this? Where the hell is it? You know what?
Laserdisc.
I remember it being hard to find. Oh no, there it is. 1993.
Oh yeah, see, I was.
So 30 years ago?
Wow.
Plus?
Yeah, 30 years ago. That's so strange because it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. Like 93 doesn't seem like, and you go 30 years. Wow, that's beautiful, man.
So
ladies and gentlemen, the Pioneer, was it Pioneer Laserdisc? It wasn't Panasonic Laserdisc, it was Pioneer, right?
this was an MPI home video, Tall Ponies production, and yeah. I mean MPI home video. But yeah, it's I
fantastic.
I got this at the Record Exchange where they have a crap ton of laser discs.
Oh, I bet they do.
And I just, oh good God. I mean, Andrew, every time I turned around, there were more. I'm just like, so I see that there's more laser discs. So I look at those because I've already looked down this whole row. And then I go, okay, I picked out America Live on Laserdisc.
Cool.
And
was that with two of them or was Dan still with them? Was it three of them?
Just the two of them.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's but I'm glad we talked about this because wait till you see what else I got. Because it deals with your career. So yeah, this one here.
Fantastic. What happened was Dan had a very bad fall in the late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
Like there was a fire, one of those terrible fires.
Yeah.
And if I recall correctly, the fire was coming. They literally had to jump off the cliff into the ocean in Malibu, where their house was. And I think they like took that as like a sign from God that he needed to stop that lifestyle. Wow. And he went born again, and that's when Dan Peake went to like a Christian career.
Okay.
And left the band.
Wow.
Because that was 79, 80, 81, right around in there. And then the other two guys, they kept going.
Yeah, this was 81.
Dewey Bunnell and Jerry Beckley. Yeah, they kept going.
Yep. Yeah. What's your favorite America record?
Probably Hearts.
Thank you. That's
Hearts. Or History, which is their greatest hits album, which is awesome.
Yeah. Whose album cover is done by who? Or who?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Phil Hartman.
Oh, I did not know
Comedian Phil Hartman was a graphic designer, and he did that album cover. He also did that minimalistic horse from the Poco album.
Oh, that was a great album cover too, and Poco was amazing.
Exactly.
Aren't they? Don't okay.
Midway.
Oh, cool.
The classic Midway. But now, are you ready?
Yeah.
Wait, go ahead and say what you were going to say. I was saying, what were we saying? Anyway.
I don't know. The Tubes. That's a great album. The Tubes video. Oh, you know what? I remember that. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a Mondo Bondage, fees all tied up. That's a great, you know what? They dressed up in blue suits. That is from the Completion Backward Principle.
Yes.
It's got the power ballad, Don't Want to Wait Anymore. It's got Talk to You Later. It's got I think Sushi Girl's probably on that one.
Yeah.
It's a great that's a great album. And it was produced by one of my favorite producers, David Foster. They're on the Capitol Records label. Yeah. So what happens?
Go ahead.
Well, no, in the 70s, the Tubes were on A&M Records.
Okay.
And they were a fantastic live band. They were originally two separate bands who merged together. That's why they were a 9-piece band with like 2 keyboard players and 2 guitar players.
Isn't that kind of weird then that Fee Waybill was in Xanadu and they did 2 bands coming together?
Yes. Well, that was that was the Tubes. With the Tubes and that the big band. That was I love that movie.
Yeah.
Big Olivia Newton-John fan.
And they had the Out of the Blue album cover at Tower Records when they walked.
Oh man, that was such a great time in history and for music. It was fantastic. So the Tubes were a great live band. They would have dancing girls. Sometimes they'd have like 26 people on stage. They'd have these giant, massive productions, and they did well touring, but they couldn't sell any records because they had White Punks on Dope. But a lot of people, they wouldn't play that in the Midwest or the South. They were huge on the West Coast, big in the East Coast, big in Europe, couldn't sell records. So after a few records, they got dropped by A&M, and then Capitol picked them up, and they were like, listen, we got to have some hits. So they paired him up with David Foster. Wow. And that's when they had the Completion Backward Principle and that whole concept, that was their big kind of breakout thing. And then after that, they did Outside Inside, which had the hit She's a Beauty, which was a top 10 hit, which you probably have there on your shelf. It's an amazing record.
I do. I've had to rearrange a little bit, so things have moved. But they're right here. Triumph. It's got to be right here somewhere.
Well,
I picked some up recently because you were playing with them in Chicago.
I played with them in Canada, and I played with them in Buffalo, and I played with them in Boston. In 2020,
but you didn't do that Chicago show. And
I didn't do the Chicago show. No, Dave was on that.
I'm sorry.
I would have loved to play with them in Chicago, but they didn't need me.
Oh, okay. Because Ron was going to that.
Ron went to the show, but I wasn't at the show.
And he invited me to go, and I couldn't do it. God,
that was I love those guys are great. If they ever need me again, I've been the sub for 12 years now. I'll be happy to play with them again. Yeah, that's a great record. They so then what happened was now that's a Todd Rundgren. That's that was kind of between. That was towards I think the 4th one they did on AM. I think 4th or 5th one on A&M. What's the year on that one?
Great back cover.
That is a killer back cover.
Hollywood Squares.
Hollywood Squares. They were on the Hollywood Squares. For those of you that remember those game shows, Hollywood Squares.
Yeah, Todd Rundgren. 79.
Todd, and that was a very cool concept record about the effect of, not the effect, but like television in our culture, and it was really cool. And some of the stories I've heard about that is that they, they're on the road touring, they're doing all these things, and they come back and they're like, okay, you got to make another record, and Todd Rundgren's producing it. And they would literally show up at the studio every day, and they'd be like, give me a concept about something. And they'd be like, I don't know, how about TV and blah, blah, blah. And Todd would be like, fine. All right, play some chords. Like they would trying to write like a song a day. They're just cranking stuff out. And so Remote Controls is the title of that record.
Yeah. Because Todd was working on that Utopia album at the same time. Because they put out Adventures in '80, didn't they?
Yeah, Todd. I don't know the timeline on the Utopia catalog, but it's all great stuff.
Yeah, because I think that's when they were doing that. Yes, go ahead though.
So what happened was they did. Let's see, they had a total of I think they did 6 albums on A&M, and then they went to Capitol. I think if my memory serves me correctly, or maybe it was 5 on A&M and 3 on Capitol. But they when they went to Capitol, they had Completion Backward Principle, and then they did Outside Inside, and then what happened was, they a lot of those hits were done with Fee Waybill, and the original songwriting was Fee Waybill and David Foster and Steve Lukather on some of those guitar licks.
Wow.
And so they came back and they had 2 successful hit records. And they're like, we need one more hit record, and we're gonna be set for life. And they came back and the band members played on all the songs, but the writing part was really Fee, and the core of the writing at the time was for the hits, not all the songs, but for the hits.
Yeah,
was Fee and David Foster and Lukather with some of those guitar riffs. And so they came back for this 3rd record, and they were like, listen, let's have Fee and Steve Lukather and David Foster write, give us 5 songs so we can write like 5 hits, and then the rest of the band, you guys can do whatever the hell you want on the other 5 songs. You can make it as weird as you want, you can be as goofy, eclectic, whatever the hell you want. Give us 5 songs, at least 3 to 5 songs. We want to keep this momentum. And the rest of the band, they're like, no, we don't want to do that. And then they have a fight. They kind of sort of break up. So what happened was, the Tubes, all except for Fee, all the rest of the Tubes went and did an album with Todd Rundgren called Love Bomb. And Fee went and did his solo album with Steve Lukather and David Foster. And it was an amazing solo album. It's what it would have been. And then what happened was they came out with both of these records at the same time. Yeah. And Capitol was like, what are we supposed to do? We can't promote a band without the main lead singer, and we can't promote the lead singer solo album while the band's got a thing over here. And the whole thing just kind of fell apart, which was quite sad. And they broke up. And had they, my opinion, this is my personal opinion, had they stayed together and made that 3rd record with hits and the eclecticness that they had done before, I think they could have been on a level of a Journey or a Styx or a Starship or like a REO Speedwagon, like a huge band. But they broke up. They did get back together in the mid 90s, and they made another record that was released on an independent label. Something in America. I don't remember. I have it at home. It's got a donut on the CD. Anyway, and then they stayed together ever since then. They've stayed together, and they've been touring ever since. But they never did get back to, and they've been touring on the strength of those 80s hits and those 70s things. And they've still got a dedicated fan base. They can play anywhere from 20 to 50 shows a year, which is pretty amazing. And I'm very grateful that I, have been able to work with them.
Yeah, I can imagine. I couldn't even imagine what it would be like to do that. I mean,
it was pretty cool. I mean, like the first show I played with them was in Canada, and it was one of those big outdoor summertime festivals. And there were probably I'm guessing somewhere between, I don't know, 8,000 people there. Yeah. And, there was I had no rehearsal. Okay. No rehearsal. Zero.
Because we love that.
Zero. No rehearsal.
See the big show up. Just like the donut.
And it was one of those summer festival things. Yeah. No rehearsal. So you just show up and like ready to go. And it was one of those where it was a series of bands, this big giant thing, a bank was paying for the giant outdoor summertime festival. And there was some big Canadian band, and I cannot remember. They were great. They sounded kind of sort of Styx like. I'm embarrassed. I can't remember the name of that band, but I've got it posted somewhere on Instagram or Facebook or my website or whatever. Anyway,
not like
it was
Glass
them,
Tiger or something, was it?
Something like that. It was them, and then it was they were huge.
Honeymoon Suite.
No, it was something they had something that their song I think went up on a space capsule. They went in space for the time machine or something.
Wow.
I don't remember. I could look it up.
Definitely wasn't the Tragically Hip then.
No, No, no. So it was those guys. They were a huge band. And then there was some other band, and then we were the headliners on it. I don't know, like a 6:30, 4:35, 6:30, smack in the middle, like when the sun's going down. And then after us was Starship. So we opened, we were the opener, like before Starship, with those other bands early before us.
Yeah.
And what I remember is walking on stage, and where I was positioned is the sun was going down, and the sun was right in my face, and I could not see anything. I was like, "Oh my god!" And you know what? If you go to my YouTube channel,
Yeah.
on my Colyer Music YouTube channel, there is like a 60-second clip, because I took a little camera and I sat it up, and I don't remember what happened, but it was the opening of the show, because we were doing the entire outside inside principle. So I walk out there, and you can see my mouth go, wow, that sun is really impressive, because I just couldn't. It's like literally blinding me, right? And I got to walk out, and I hit the button.
You guys opened with that?
Yeah, because it was the first track. They wanted to play the whole record start to finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 75 minutes. I think it was 75.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's more than I thought.
60 minutes. It was 60 to 75 minutes. It was longer than you would think, but it was this, summer festival thing.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. And that was in August. Was it August? August of 2022. And then I subbed in with them again in the fall in Rochester and Boston, and it was like a 2-hour show, because they were the headliners.
Wow.
Which was that was a ton of fun.
Wow.
But yeah, they're all great. They're all fun guys. They're all, they're all just still doing the thing.
Still yeah. And I'll have to keep in touch with you about getting in touch with them, because I'd love to talk with.
Yeah, I'll be happy to put you in touch with them. Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, I was listening to, now Read My Lips is the Fee Waybill album. Yep. Genius of America is the
Genius of America. That's it. Yeah.
Tubes album in '96. And then, but I'll tell you what, Fee Waybill Rides Again.
That's a newer one that just came out in the last couple of years.
That kicks ass.
Yep. It does kick ass.
That album kills.
Yep.
Get out there and check it out, because
it's great.
You just might not believe it. Just because he had one solo album before this one, and you know him from the Tubes. So, but when you listen to this album, it kicks ass.
It does. And it's very different style, because it was done during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's a stripped down album. It's like drums, bass, mostly guitars, almost no, there may not be any keyboards, almost no keyboards, and Fee. It's so cool. And I think his lyrics are great.
Yes.
He's very interesting. Is it woulda, shoulda, coulda? There's one on there, like it's some very poignant lyrics that you can tell are told, or you're telling the story of someone who's lived, who's lived a life.
Yeah.
And it's good.
Yeah. He starts with Faker.
And when Fee does his
all 9 tracks, 9 songs.
Yep. No, it's good. And when Fee does his solo shows in California, he has Richard Marx, and Richard Marx's backup band is his backup band.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're really good friends. Have been for a long time. So
yeah, I'd love to talk to Richard too. It's just like,
Yeah, if you get a chance to catch a Fee Waybill solo show, it's going to have Richard Marx and his band as the backup band. So I would say check it out.
That's so cool. So now, I don't want to keep you too much longer. You're an hour ahead of me, and
yeah, but it's 11:30.
And you also, and let's just dip a toe in this. You are also a chiropractor.
Yeah, man, that's my day gig. I majored in classical piano performance in undergrad, and I did singing and playing the trumpet. And I really, if we're going to be 100% transparent here, I really wanted to go to Berklee College of Music because at the time, I didn't have the patience. I was also very hyper, Ron will tell you. I didn't think I couldn't sit still in a room for 8 to 12 hours a day and practice the piano.
Well, let's
So
face it, that's why you and Ron probably get along so well.
yeah, we're both too hyper. So so
Finally, somebody who can keep up with me.
oh yeah. Yeah, don't get us together. It's frightening.
Frenetic.
So anyway, I really wanted to go to Berklee College of Music in Boston because I knew that I would learn about rock and pop and jazz, and I would learn the recording industry, and I would learn how to be a musician in a modern world. And my alcoholic parents, that wasn't good enough for them. So they had the yelling, screaming fight of, you're not going to be a goddamn musician. You're going to go to, medical school, chiropractic school, dental school, podiatry school, osteopathic school, like physical therapy school, like whatever. And you know what? I was young and afraid, and I could not see how I didn't know how to do it on my own. True, and I was just young and afraid, so I did what they said. I went to chiropractic school, and it turned out that I had a knack for it, and I really did like it. But my inner musician was, and so when I was in chiropractic school, when I was a DJ for 4 years, and I also played in 2 rock bands, and I started studying jazz. Okay. So, and that was all in St. Louis at Logan College of Chiropractic out in Chesterfield.
Wow.
So that's, so that was the 4 years that I spent there. And so I've been doing acupuncture and chiropractic and alternative medicine. I do a lot of nutrition. I do blood work. I do emotional work. I do sports injuries. I got about 20 different things. I have a broad skill set.
Yeah.
But all the time that I was doing that, my inner musician was really depressed. And in 2011, a close friend of mine almost died of cancer.
Wow.
And when you kind of start thinking about death for like a year, you just go, I just said, I am not going to my deathbed without really, really, really trying to do something, because it's all I ever wanted to do since I was like 7 years old. I had a vision of myself playing the piano on a big stage at a massive auditorium. Like that's just all I ever wanted to do. So, it was kind of, I had this kind of split thing going on. So in 2011, I said, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I got to do something. So that's when I just started calling everybody I know. And before then, I had tried stuff. Like I'd had a jazz quartet. My buddy Dan, who got me into prog, we had recorded a single with Tony Levin, which was cool. That never got released. I kept trying to do kind of Nicky Nack stuff here on this. That's not really Nicky Nack with Tony Levin, but I was trying to do things, but I couldn't really make it work. Because I also moved across the country 7 times during that 20-year period, trying to figure my life out. And when I finally realized that I was just really depressed because I wasn't being a musician, I kept trying to do other things to make money. Because I thought, well, if I just make enough money, then I can afford to be a musician, right?
Right.
I'll just do that. I'll make money. I can afford to be a musician. Then I'll go back to music. And then I kept starting these little music things, but they would never work out because I'd move again because I kept trying to get a better job or better work situation or whatever.
Right.
So in 2011, I was like, okay, I really got to make something happen. And it's funny because when I made the commitment, I really made this commitment, and I put myself back in therapy. I'm like, I'm going to go to therapy. I'm going to do whatever it fucking takes.
Yeah.
My own blocks, my mental, emotional blocks, my financial, my life, like whatever it takes, I'm going to do this. And when I made the commitment, things kind of, and started just working, just doing the next one thing. Okay, what can I do? Okay, I can do this. Okay, then I did this. Okay, now what can I do? And I can do that. That's when Ron introduced me to Robert Berry, and I met Dave Med, and then I got the Tubes gig. And then I went on the first Cruise to the Edge as a passenger in 2013. Came off that Cruise to the Edge, joined the progressive rock tribute band Downing Gray, which then became Circuline. I got in the Prog Rock Orchestra in 2014. We played on the Moody Blues Cruise and the S Cruise to the Edge.
Wow.
Circuline keeps going. Like everything that kept unraveling and all the things that have happened over the last 10 years, besides starting with Ron in 2011, but it really started with my commitment. And because I was like, I'm miserable. I'm not going to my deathbed without really doing this, because it's all I ever really wanted to do anyway.
Yeah.
So, so basically the day gig, which, if I have to have a day job, it's a good gig to have. I enjoy helping people. And it's helped to fund all of the music stuff. Because, in today's world as a musician, it's very difficult to make money only from the music. Like I want to do that. That's my ultimate goal. I mean, I want to be able to be generating enough revenue for music that I can go part-time in the office, or maybe I don't know if I'll be able to leave healthcare. I would like to be able to, but at least part-time, if not retire from healthcare.
Yeah.
But right now that's what I have some money from music, but it's not enough to pay for the.
Yeah.
Hello, and we're back.
Yeah, I get.
Everything
I
cut
don't.
out for a
Yeah.
second. You there?
Yeah, it's cutting out a little bit, but I'm like, what's going on? So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, to be able to, that's just like
So
me
anyway,
with all this stuff.
so yeah, that's. Yeah, I hope that wasn't too much of a downer, towards the end of the show, but that's just the reality. Like that money to do music has got to come from somewhere, especially. And look, we're lucky. Like we're lucky in the 21st century, because if it was the 70s, 80s, or 90s, and you didn't get discovered or signed to a label, that was the only way. Like we would have had to have just been resigned to, oh, I didn't make it. At least we have an opportunity now. We can write, we can record, we can create, we can put it out there, we can do the videos, we can tour. Like there's no way we could have done this 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And thank God for Mick Jagger, because Mick Jagger and all these other guys ahead of us who are literally 80 years old. Mick Jagger's 80 to 80. I know he's at least 80, not 81.
Yeah.
Because of those guys have kept going. There's no ageism in music anymore. There's no ageism. Nobody cares how old you are. All they know is, do they like the music and do you put on a good show?
Yep.
And because of that, thanks to them, we can keep doing this we can keep doing this another 30, 40, 50 years, as long as we're healthy enough to do it.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. Absolutely. And I tell people that a lot. I'm like, I may be my age. I'm close to 60, and I'm like, but I'm like, I still got another 40 years to go, at least.
Exactly.
So I'm like,
creative people don't retire.
No.
You know what? And Roger Dean is the guitarist in the Tubes. And he said to me one time after a show, we were at the bar, and he goes, musicians, generally speaking, tend to keep getting better as they get older. They generally don't get worse. So I'm like, well, that's cool. I mean, I'm better now than I was 5 years ago, and I'm better, now than I was 10 years ago. You just keep playing, you keep practicing, you keep learning new things, you keep making new connections in your brain, and it's fun. There's not a lot of other people who get over 50 who they don't have much fun anymore.
True.
Not the kind of fun that we have.
And and when you're a playing musician, there's that fine line where you have to remember it is still business at some point, but it's fun business. Some people just think, well, I'm just going to do it for fun, and then they're not really in. So like either and that can be a range of things, whether they show up late, they don't take rehearsals seriously enough, they don't they bitch about how much you're getting paid, or whatever it is, and I understand bitching about how much you're getting paid. Sometimes I've done that, and I'm just like, just make good business decisions and have a business meeting before you start a band. You get everybody together.
Oh yeah.
And you have all the questions on the table, and just have a list and start going through it, but some people don't have band meetings before they start. They're just like, oh, we like playing together, let's do a band. It's like, hey, we had a great conversation. You want to go on vacation together? You're like, okay, wait a minute. There are things we need to talk about first,
right,
to find out if that's even possible, because there's no way I want to get down the line and my drummer, guitarist, singer, whoever it is, keyboard player, gets butt hurt because they all of a sudden can't make a gig and I'm replacing them for the night. And they're like, well, you can't do that. You're like, no, I can. But we never talked about it. Oh, well, there's the problem. We never had a business meeting to know if that's okay. So that's what happens with a lot of this stuff is we always have to remember it's fun, but the only way to make it fun is to understand there's a business side. And so if we all have that understanding,
and you're not
now
saying,
it's fun.
And you didn't say.
So. Oh, it locked up. Go ahead. You were saying something.
Hello.
Hi, you're back.
I was just waiting for the thing to come back.
Yeah.
Like yeah, and we're back. What I was saying was you didn't say you were kicking him out of the band. You said you got a sub for the night because you had a gig booked and you weren't going to cancel.
Right.
It's interesting. Everyone has different levels of commitment. And so the reason you have some of those business meetings is because you just have to find out what it is that people want. And the experience that I've had is that everyone has what they think they're committed to and what they really want in their mind. And this is what they're actually committed to. And as you go up this mountain, you just get to a certain point. And some people, they don't want to climb any higher on the mountain. And there's nothing wrong with them wanting what they want. It's just not what I want, or it's just not what we want. So we're going to keep going. And you're free to stay with us, or you're free to just do whatever you want. It's a free country. Yeah. You're an adult, do whatever you want, but just let us know. Sometimes it's just not the right fit anymore. Like any relationship, sometimes it's good for a while, and then you get to a certain point and it's just not the right fit anymore.
Yeah.
And nobody has to be wrong. I mean, it's so easy to get mad about everything. Like you said, butt hurt, which I love. I think that's hysterical. But there's just no, like, okay, well, I want this and you want that. Okay, well, that doesn't really match anymore. So, you go that way and I'll go this way. You don't have, there doesn't have to be any necessarily hard feelings. We just don't want the same things anymore. It's just like, it's kind of like dating.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like if you're dating, you know what? Like there are deal breakers in relationships. It'd be like if you're dating someone and okay, you don't have to say you or me. If one person is dating another person and they're in their 20s and 30s, one person wants kids, the other person doesn't want kids. All right, deal breaker. Not going to happen. Pick any topic you want. You get to a certain point, and there's going to be a deal breaker. Chris Rock says, if you're going to be born again, she better be born again too. If you're going to be a crackhead, he better be a crackhead too. It's like there's just some certain things that got to match.
You got to match those things.
You got to match those things. So
let's see. You're a crackhead. I have. Okay. Just give me a minute. I got to think about it. I've never been a crackhead. Damn, you're hot. Let's see.
Right. And you might try it on. You might try it out to see if it could work. I don't know. This is, and then you try it out and then you're like, nah, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's always
been in those relationships. Yeah.
3 dates, 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months. It's always multiples of 3. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And then it usually jumps to 18 months, 24 months. But it's always multiples of 3. Usually.
Exactly. It's divisible by 3. Yeah. It's amazing. Sometimes I've been in bands where it hits a certain moment and you're like, ooh, especially bands that you join into late, you're somebody new. And then you're like, oh, I guess you guys never had a business meeting about this.
Oh, please. I've been that guy too. I've been that guy. I'm asking all these questions and they look at me and they're like, what? Or they're mad. They're mad that I'm asking those questions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nobody talked about no, because they're living it well, because they're living in fantasy land.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we're gonna do this thing, it's gonna be great. And then you come in and you just start asking the questions like, how are you gonna get from here to there?
Yeah.
And then they're like, what? Oh man, this happened with Downing Gray. There were many reasons why Downing Gray transitioned from being a progressive rock tribute band into our all original band Circuline. But one of them was, I think it was like literally like the second time I was there.
Yeah.
And I came in with this giant flip chart. It was like this 2 foot by 3 foot thing from Staples, like the giant Post-it note things. And I got all my colored Sharpies because they kept saying we were talking on the phone and emails going back and forth.
Yeah.
And there's 6 of us plus Bob, the sound and light guy, right? So now there's 7 of us. So I come in and I'm like, okay, so you guys are saying you're going to do this. I go, so let's say we each made $500 a night. So that means there's 7 times 7 people. That's $3,500 a night. So it's $3,500 a night. Now, where are we going to play that we're going to get that kind of money? And who's doing the marketing? Right. I'm like, do you guys even have a website? You guys have played any gigs? Well, I was like, I think I was like the 5th keyboard player in 7 years or some crazy shit.
Geez.
So I joined the band, but I was like, I'm like, okay, I'll take care of the website. All right, I'm going to get us a better place to rehearse. I'm going to start booking us some gigs. We got to let's go.
Yeah.
Like I was like that guy. And they were like, okay. I'm like, we need video. We need demo rehearsal video so we can apply to get in some of these festivals.
Yeah.
And so that was great for about a year. That year, the first year I was with them. And then the drummer, Darren Brannon, and myself, and the guitar player, Bill Shannon at the time. By that point, we had brought Natalie Brown in to sing background because we used to do Pink Floyd Great Gig in the Sky, and she would do all those screaming high with stupid vocal stuff, right?
Yeah.
By that time, we'd also replaced the lead vocals with Billy Spillane, who became a founding member of Circuline. So by that point, we had our 3-part harmony vocals with me and Natalie and Billy. Darren can play anything. Like when you've played 3-hour progressive rock shows of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Yes, Genesis, Jethro Tull, Rush, UK, Pink Floyd, like we knew we could play. Yeah. And we wanted to write original material because when I joined the band, I'm like, I'm not doing this unless we write original material. And the bass player really didn't want to do that. Even though he had a degree in composition from Berklee College of Music, he just didn't want to. I'm like, we couldn't understand why.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. But he would literally he would go to the bathroom and we would start jamming on some like new original shit. And he'd come back to the bathroom and he's like, what's that? What are you playing? What are you doing? We were like, we're just having a good time, like just jamming out, writing some new original shit. Oh, he got so mad. He goes, that doesn't sound like any record I know. So
I don't get it.
Anyway, but that's so what happens after like a year, we were finally like, okay, we all want to do like, there's 7 people and 5 people want to do one thing and 2 people don't. They want to do something else. We're like, okay, well, we're just going to go do this other thing now.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
And that's just what happened. And then here we are.
Wow.
10 years later.
10 years later.
10 years later.
Let's see. The last I should probably let you get going. The last thing I wanted to shoot. What was it? The last thing I wanted to do was
you had a question you wanted to come back to from your lightning round. Did you want to do that?
I did, but I had something else that I wanted to say. I need to start writing this stuff down because I do digress. It just gets too fun, and then I.
It's easy to do. I have hosted my own interviews before. I know what it's like.
Yeah,
it's easy to do.
There's so much. I don't remember what it was.
You know what? I don't know if all your shows are this long, but I appreciate. I know we've been talking. So I'm sorry if I'm telling too many stories or that's going on too long.
No, some of them are, and then some of them are like I talked with Doug Pinnick a few years back.
Oh, cool.
And man, we just had a great chat, and it's I don't know, it's still 40 minutes until we were done with that one from now.
Oh, wow. He's an awesome dude.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic guy. Fantastic. I'm dying to have him back on the show. And
well, he had real stories. I have like behind the scenes.
You got real stories.
He's got some King's X stories.
Yeah, but who else got stories? It's freaking Ron Matthews. He's got stories.
Ron Matthews has we talked for a long time. He was going to write a book. That dude knows. Ron Matthews is an encyclopedia of
Yeah.
rock. He
Yeah.
knows all the liner notes. He knows all the dudes. He's met them all. That's the thing. Like, I know he's really kind of moved into comedy now, but in the music
Right.
world, I mean, he has met everybody. He knows everybody, and if he doesn't know him, he knows like 10 other people who know that person. So when he meets him, he can like throw all these references out about the
Yes.
obscure track they played on that one record and the dude he
Yes.
played on some live thing with, and like he just knows everything. I'm
Yeah.
just astonished.
I was
And he'll
just
be
mentioning
like, oh yeah,
to
you know this, and I'm like, no, I don't, Ron.
no, no, I don't. I was just talking
No,
to
I don't
somebody
know. You
about
know that, but I don't know that one.
yeah. It was my friend Sella that I was talking to earlier today, and I was mentioning about Stuart Corden and I having a moment last night about comic books where he goes, I don't know if you remember this. I don't nobody else knows this. You know, we were talking about comics and we were talking about Shang-Chi. And because I read Shang-Chi and I was
Oh,
pissed when the movie came out
Shang-Chi. I love
because I
Shang-Chi.
was pissed at the movie because it wasn't Shang-Chi. So they
Oh, I'm
baited my
sorry.
ass and I bought a frickin' ticket and it wasn't it. So because
Well, you know what? I didn't know the Shang-Chi cartoons, but I love that movie.
well, the
I had
comic
comic
books are
books.
yeah, the comic books is they based him on Bruce Lee. So it's your favorite it's Enter the Dragon meets your favorite James Bond movie.
Oh,
Put
I
it
didn't know
put them
that.
together
Okay.
because
Oh.
he was raised to be an assassin by Fu Manchu, his father, and then when he went to do that to make an assassinate, he didn't do it because he didn't want to do it. So so then Nayland Smith gets a hold of him, and he's part of MI6. And there's Clive Reston, who's basically James Bond. And
Oh, that's the comic book story?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. I bet that
I
was
mean,
really amazing. I'm sorry they didn't do that. Marvel didn't do that then.
I will send you JPEGs of a certain line of a certain series, part of the series of comics, and you'll be amazed at what they didn't do and how it could have been done. And it could have been so cool. But again,
Wow.
that's a big digression. But the problem with it is that that when they announced that they were going to do that, I just said, why? Nobody knows
Oh.
who this guy is, and you're going to ruin it. And they did. Now the movie was entertaining. I get it. People like the movie, and I get it. I was entertained by the movie, but I was pissed at the fact that they just took this character because they were the rich kids. Disney is the rich kid that bought all Marvel, and then they just do whatever they want with it. Well, we're going to make this like this now. Well, okay. Okay. Whatever, rich kid, you know.
Well,
Whatever.
I think they just well, it's an or I think well, first of all, they needed an origin story for another superhero that they can wrap into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I don't know how they could have had a James Bond type character who's Asian martial artist, how they could fit that in. So
Well, you know who yeah,
I think
Sony could have done it. Sony
well,
should
there's
have
lots
done
of
it.
people like they could have done it, but I think I'm hoping that when they bring Shang-Chi back around as part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like you got his origin story, now he's just going to be another superhero with the rings bracelets type thing.
Because there's
I mean,
none
I'm
of
just
that.
saying that's
Yeah.
yeah, right.
There's
And you know what? And probably because it was none of that is why they changed the story.
yeah, which is again, that's just what the rich kid does.
Right.
I
Yeah.
own it now. He's gonna have rings now. He's magic and there's dragons. And you're like,
Right.
whoa, slow the roll there,
You're like
cowboy.
you're like that. You're like that's not the Shang-Chi that I know in the
You're
comic
like,
books.
just call it something else because
Oh, right.
you
Yeah. Come
know
up with a new name.
it's like, yeah, I always this is when I bring up the Doobie Brothers. I'm like, some people thought they should have called it something else when Michael McDonald joined because to them, that's not the Doobie Brothers. So, you know, it was something totally different. So that's the way it is.
So, well,
And
that's a whole nother tangent we could go down, because the only point I'm going to make is I got one word for you: catalog.
Yeah,
and a brand.
Right.
And so here's the thing: if it had started and they had gone another direction when he joined, it's almost like Journey. I mean, look at Journey before Steve Perry and after Steve Perry. Like, they did have a crossover. There was the crossover period. I mean, Yes has had like 20 different members. Genesis went through I mean, almost every rock band in history has gone through lineup changes, which is why I don't feel so bad about with Circuline, the lineup changes we've had.
Exactly.
But you look at King Crimson. How many versions of King Crimson have there been where Robert Fripp, the only constant member is Robert Fripp? Just look at that lineup over the years.
Yeah. Uriah Heep and Mick Box.
Say that again.
Mick Box and Uriah Heep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You're looking at a brand and you're looking at a catalog. So,
look at Foreigner. Nobody.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, you could go on and on. It's just that, there was the Doobies before Michael, and then there was the Doobies after Michael, and since I'm not an expert on the Doobie Brothers, when he joined the band, didn't they do some records kind of before he took over as the main songwriter? Like, wasn't he involved somewhat, like with singing backup and touring? I know, because you know what? There's a really great, there's a couple of really great interview episodes of Michael McDonald. I think Rick Beato.
Yeah, he did one.
Did a really good interview with him, and then based on that, there was somebody else had a podcast on YouTube that was a long form interview with Michael McDonald, and I think between those two, I've kind of pieced together some of the things. I think maybe he was just touring and singing backup, and they came off tour and they had to go right back in the studio, make another record, and he had a couple ideas. I think he was a part of the previous record before Minute by Minute came out.
Because whatever it's called, I think I've got a copy over here of it. But yeah, I want to say Taking It to the Streets.
Yes. Yes, he was on that one
prior. So
yes.
Yeah. So, and then they did Living on the Fault Line after the Minute by Minute. But Minute by Minute had they had a song at that point, and I love that record. I have nothing against that record. I think it's I think there's some great stuff. Taking It to the Streets, great song. I'm not as familiar with the album yet, but it was getting different. But again, I love Minute by Minute. It was the production on that was just so extremely awesome, and the songs were great. And one of the songs ended up in the movie FM, which was a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
What it's just one of those, what are you supposed to say? But the bands are a little different than like a storyline or a character, but all the same. Well, like, yes, when Trevor Horn and Jeffrey Downs joined.
Yeah. Or you could go back and look at Chicago. I mean,
Chicago
70 Chicago versus David Foster 80
David
Chicago.
Foster. You watched his movie, right?
Which one?
About David Foster. You watched his
I'm sure I watched it as soon as it came out. It came out sometime during the pandemic, right? 2020, 21, 22.
Yes. Yeah.
Hitman or something like that.
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm watching.
Is that the one that they were kind of glorifying Whitney Houston at the end, or I'm confusing that with Clive Davis? That's the Clive Davis one.
Right, Clive Davis, right.
Yeah.
But I was really I had this thing where I've watched almost I've almost watched it all, The Love Boat. And Ben Vereen is on The Love Boat, and he's a choreographer in this 2-episode show, right? Where they're doing this big musical on the whole boat, right? So they're going to film a musical on the boat, and Ben Vereen is in it. I'm like, wouldn't it be wild? Because in this biopic about David Foster, he talks about, I was in the studio. It was like late, I was in the studio till like 2 o'clock, and then I left, and I'm driving down this oceanside
Oh, right.
highway,
Yes. Yeah.
and somebody is in the middle of the road, and I hit them.
Yeah.
And
That's
I'm like,
crazy.
what if you were filming that Love Boat and you look at Ben Vereen and go, you know what? Wouldn't it be weird if later down the line in 2000, bleh, you're gonna get hit by a car because you're gonna be staggering around in the middle of the road. But oddly enough, that's gonna save your life.
Exactly. That's crazy, right? Because I don't know if it was a stroke or heart attack or
He was
whatever.
having an aneurysm,
Aneurysm, right? And David hit him and then took him to the hospital. And yeah, he
and
would have died. Would have
he
died if
would
David
have died.
Foster didn't hit him with his car. He would have
Yep,
died.
yep.
Like that's some crazy
That's some
karmic.
crazy shit.
That's some crazy shit.
That's when you look at it and you go, everything happens for a reason.
Yep.
And everything happens when it should. That's what I always say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so we don't live with regret. I like the fact that you mentioned about therapy. There's a lot of people that talk about therapy these days and the things that can help them move along. And just to put aside the bricks that are in the wall that hold them back from what they really want to do. And I've considered it because there's certain things that that I deal with getting things done, being organized, these kind of things that, I wonder if, you play the game. I've mentioned it before. You play the game of, well, do I do this as an excuse? Because if I do get it all in order and it is cool and I look at it the way
Then
I
what?
want to see it, am I really going to move forward?
You won't know until you try it. That's the only
Exactly.
thing I say.
So that's a
Try it.
question. It's that's why therapy, sometimes I believe in that. I don't do it necessarily, but I know a lot of people that do, and I think it's great. I think I'm
There's
glad
lots
that they find that person.
There's lots of different kinds of therapy. So let me
There is.
say this. There's lots of different tools, lots of
Mhm.
different techniques, lots of different kinds of therapists. I saw a number of different people for many years
Hmm.
because, like in 2011, I put myself back in therapy because I'd already been doing some therapy off and on for a long time,
Gotcha.
trying to get over my family of origin issues. And
Hmm.
um, all I can say is that for me, I would work with different people for anywhere from 6 months to a couple of years until I felt like I'd kind of maxed out whatever I was going to be able to do with that person with their
Right.
skill set, and
Right.
then I would go find somebody else.
Okay.
Because I think if you stay with the same therapist for too many years, if you're not making progress, you need to change things. You know what? Here's a line I came up with.
Hmm.
If you're still with the same therapist, right?
Yeah.
If your therapy lasts longer than your actual childhood, maybe you need to move on to a different person. Maybe that's not the right therapist for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not supposed to be the annuity, the
Yeah.
retirement annuity for these people.
Right.
But
Right.
there's lots of tools, there's lots of different kinds of therapy, there's lots of things to do that can just be helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's tremendously helpful for me, and I would just highly recommend it. And for anyone if you're not sure about therapy, the best thing you can do is pick up a pen and start with journaling.
Hmm.
Get a pad of paper, get a blank book of paper, and just start writing.
Yeah.
What is it that I want? What am I mad
Hmm.
about? What am I upset about? What is it that I need to do blah blah blah? And just
Mhm.
write, because there's something about the act of writing and getting these things out of your head so they're not just swimming around in your head.
Yeah.
It'll help you
Yeah.
to process. It'll help you to process some of those things out.
You know,
Um,
that's an interesting point. I love that idea because I've done journaling and I like it and I think it's a great idea. So you mentioning that, I'm like, absolutely.
mhm,
However, too, I shouldn't say however. That's not really the word I want to use because I don't want to use the word but either
mhm.
because I hate
Or
the word but.
say and
And um and on top of that, I also wonder if those who, in your case, that's very helpful to me. So the folks who have done therapy things, can we look to learn from them as well? you know? Just
I
like
think so. I
just like
just look.
years ago, I did a gig and a woman showed up and we took a break and she was like, "Hey, could I get a picture behind the drummer's kit?" And I said, "Well, I'm gonna talk to my drummer real quick." She said, "Okay, because my son-in-law can take the picture." Very nice woman, attractive, woman that's probably about at that time she was probably what I am now on age. And and I was like, she goes, "Just well, or anything. I could just hold a guitar." I said, "Well, here's my bass. Hold on to it." And so he comes over, takes the picture, and then she looks at me and she goes, "My husband passed away 6 months ago."
Oh.
Um, and
Oh.
this is the first time I've been out since. And I'm like, "Wow. Uh, okay." And she says, I'm a little I'm a little upset with God right now." And I said,
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
he gets that." I said, "That's okay. He he gets it. He knows that." And I said, "But what we have to hold on to is the fact that he's still there. If you believe in that,
Yeah.
he's he's still there and he's waiting for you to be ready, just like you and me as people. If you're upset with me, but you don't hate me and we're good friends, then you're going to wait for me and we'll eventually talk it out. But but that's okay. He knows that's what's going on. But just remember things can get better and they will get better because there's still people around you that need you. And so you've got something to contribute there. But also just remember everything happens when it should. So it may not be, this may not have happened for you. It just happens. It's a
Right.
part of life. People pass, but you're going to have this experience so that if when somebody else has to go through this, you'll be better suited to help them with that instead of somebody who doesn't know what that's like, you know.
Yeah.
So so those who do therapy can also help those who maybe don't go to do that, or you know, there
Yeah.
might be something you can tell people that
Uh,
this is what helped, and then it helps them to go, "Oh, yeah, okay, I get it." You know?
I would say start with journaling because it's free and easy and
Yeah.
everybody can do it. Just start getting the stuff out of your head so it's not just swimming around in your head all the time.
Well, and it helps you to think, especially for those who don't think they wanna do therapy, it allows them to get it started to where, "Okay,
Right.
well, I'll help myself then that way. I can see what I'm thinking."
Yeah, help yourself and then what'll happen or not is if therapy is right for you, what happens with some people is that you're doing all the things you can do yourself. You're
Mhm,
reading all the books, you're watching videos, you're journaling, you're
mhm,
doing, whatever, and then you still don't like how you feel. And there's some things that you want to change about your life or how you
mhm,
feel or your relationships with certain things just are not healthy. Maybe habits or behaviors or thoughts or whatever.
mm, yeah,
And for me, I just got to the point where I said, I don't want to feel like this anymore. This is not acceptable. I can't go the rest of my life feeling like this. This is
yeah,
not sustainable. I can't. I've done all the things I can do on my own. I got to get some help.
mhm.
And that's when I started. And that was
Ah, uh,
2000, 99, 2000,
okay, and
2002,
how did you
somewhere around
find your
99 or 2000. Because I did like 13 years of therapy off and on doing different things. I did lots of different techniques. I saw different practitioners. I would do some stuff when I went to continuing education seminars. I had some different people I would see
mhm,
because I was just trying different things. I was like, I'm just going to try there's different modalities. Some
yeah,
are more body based, where they're just trying to get the physiology of the emotional stress out of your system. So
yeah,
you don't have to talk a lot. It's really
mhm,
more some stuff is just trying to process like what the hell happened.
yeah,
Um, there's lots of different ways that different types of things can help.
yeah,
And I would just say, um, do the best you can on your own. And then if you need some help, then don't be afraid to ask for some
yeah.
help.
And some of us need to remember that we have some of these resources available to us. Like working for the education industry, then I have this available to me through benefits. There's somebody that there's a therapist that's hired, they have these therapists within this organization that I can use just through my work. So I don't even,
and sometimes you have all the answers inside yourself, but you just don't know how to access them. So sometimes a good therapist does a good job of just asking you questions to help draw the answers out in a way that you won't be able to figure it out on your own.
right. Yeah.
Sometimes you can figure it out on your, sometimes you can't. And that's when sometimes you need help. George Carlin's got a really good, really funny thing on self-help. Because he's like, you're reading all these books and you're going to seminars and it's all this self-help crap. And he goes, he goes, that's not self-help. That's just help. If it was self-help, you'd have done it yourself already. You wouldn't need to get this help somewhere else.
It's like preheating the oven. Who preheats an oven?
Exactly.
You just heat an oven. What is
the same thing with pre-boarding a plane? They're like,
pre-boarding a plane.
You're getting pre-board. You're pre-boarding. I'm like, no, you're getting on the plane. You're boarding. What's the pre? What's no pre?
You've already done pre-boarding when you bought a ticket. That's right. Pre-boarding.
Exactly. Yeah, the preheating of, you're not preheating it. You're heating it.
You're heating it. Everything you've done before is preheating. Right. I don't want to run my oven the whole time while I'm preparing these cookies. Good. That's that's preheating.
So you should just say heat the oven up to 400 degrees and then start the baking process.
So should we change dating to pre-marrying or
pre-marriage,
pre-sexing or whatever?
Yeah, I don't know.
Whatever it is you don't do yet, that's the pre. That's preing. Right now, we're pre-brushing our teeth.
Exactly. Hey, speaking of brushing our teeth, I'm starting to, it's like 12:18 a.m. Yes. And Stu, I've loved being on your show. This is awesome.
You gotta work.
I'm starting to fade, man.
Yeah, you should. It's late. It was that same thing for Stuart last night. I'm like, yeah, dude, I got another show. You got to go to bed.
Yeah, I got to go to bed.
So, so thank you. Let's keep in touch, obviously. And then we'll, we have to do some more. And then I'm also talking about doing some shows, reports from the road when you have gigs that you're playing out. If you're doing multiple gigs,
oh, that'd be great.
That too. So
that'd be great.
So thanks to everybody else. Thank you so much, Andrew, for being here tonight. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for thank you so much for continuing to promote independent music and independent musicians. We couldn't be doing this without super cool and awesome and nice people like you, Stu. So I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I appreciate your show and why you do it and having us on here. It's great.
And there is a big trend on vinyl. Do you have some of the music available on vinyl?
We keep talking about one of the reasons I was trying to keep this record to 8 tracks, 8 songs, like a Rush album, like 4 songs on one side. Side 2 is 4 other songs. It still came out longer than we wanted. It won't fit on one side of vinyl. We're not sure. We might be able to do some kind of a triple album vinyl set or like a set.
Yeah,
because the first album was right at 40 minutes. The second album was like 68 minutes, and this one is, I think, 50. It's still too much for vinyl, but we might be able to do some kind of a box set or something. I don't know, but we want to. That's a goal of ours, is to have it on vinyl, because we know there's so many collectors who would love to get it on vinyl. So.
Yeah, because I'm kind of doing that with some. Some get too expensive, but others,
we would love to, and I was trying to keep it to that 45 minute.
Yeah.
Two sides of vinyl on one side of a 90-minute cassette. Like I was really trying to keep it. And it's also about an attention span.
Yes.
It's hard to listen. I remember when Journey came out with an album called Arrival.
Yes.
And it was like 16 songs.
Yes.
And I could never get through it. And I was a massive Journey fan. And I was like, dude, It was like it was, I don't know, 75, whatever the hell it was. It was long. I could, and I couldn't even remember all of it because I could never listen to all of it at the same time. I can't even listen to all these damn songs.
No.
Like, you should have cut it in half and put out another record a year later.
Yep. Yeah. There's a great album that came out recently, and I had them on the show. Scott Mishu Band. And it's a brilliant record. I've said it a million times, takes me right back to Surfing with the Alien by Satriani. It's an all instrumental guitar album, just like that kind of album. And it's 30 some minutes long. I'm like, thank you. I just thanked him for it, because I'm like, that's the perfect amount. I don't need to keep going on and on here, but I am going to do a thing, and I'll send you a link when I do it, about the new Judas Priest album.
Oh, cool.
I'm very excited. I'm going to get to see them soon. Sabaton's going to open, but there's something about that album that I'm going to do a quick little video about, and I'm going to get the info together. But it's an interesting thing. So
I just want to let you know.
Yeah.
I sent Ron Matthews a text.
Good.
On Saturday, July 6th. At Busch Stadium, St. Louis. Def Leppard, Journey, Steve Miller, Heart, Cheap Trick.
Yes.
Like, holy crap. And that's the first of a whole summer long, a couple months of dates there.
Yeah, because they're switching some out on other shows.
Is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah, like I think it's like Steve Miller will be at some, and then somebody else will be at one.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's how it's going. But
maybe it's a triple header, and they rotate the Steve Miller, Heart, Cheap Trick shows out.
Yeah. I think that's how it's going to go. Yeah.
Okay.
Zebra's in town this weekend. So
still, you know what? Randy Jackson, Zebra. You know what? Does Ron know that? Does Ron know Zebra's in town? Because Ron loves Zebra.
Yeah, I think he does. I think we talked about it.
Actually, when I was on the 2013 or 14 Cruise to the Edge, I took a sign that I made that said, "We love you, Ron." And when I got my picture taken with Zebra, we held up the sign. It was like, "We love you, Ron," and with God. Zebra. Yeah, he loves those guys. You know what? Please reach out to him. I'm sure he's probably gone to bed by now. But let him know. You know what? I'm going to text him right now. We're live on the air, and I'm texting Ron Matthews.
Yeah, they're playing out at the Factory. I just saw them over at the Wildie. They played their whole first album.
Zebra is in St. Louis this weekend, exclamation point.
La, 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 la.
The band Zebra, your favorite.
Yeah.
I love the talk to text. It's so efficient. Look at that.
I know. I did it today when I was doing your lightning round questions. When I was going to get the dog, I'm like, I got to get these questions ready. So I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, perfect. So, but we'll finish up here so you can get rolling. But and I'm going to start this theme song too. Just like I told you. So thank you very much, everybody. Get out there and check out the Circuline website. You can check out all the music there, and you can see what they've got available. All their merch is out there. The whole discography is talked about out there. So, Andrew, all the best to you and everybody in the band.
Stu, thank you so much.
I look forward to meeting you in person someday soon. I don't know how often you make it back here, but
all right, man. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Stu.
Thanks, brother. Have a great one. Get some rest.
Thanks, man.